Sweet. Chad Resler in the house.
Yep.
Oh, come on, you son of a bitch.
Oh, we're doing video too?
No, it's not doing video.
Okay.
I'm just getting a couple of pictures.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Like cover photos for the social.
Right.
Yeah. So, Chad.
Yes.
Fucking Californian.
Right? I'm one of those assholes. The good thing about being a Californian in North Idaho is that I'm not the only one.
So, well, not anymore, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, all you dickheads running around can't figure out how to drive in snow.
That's not really me.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
You're Northern California,
I get that
so you've seen snow before.
Northeastern California.
Yeah.
Northern California, usually when you say that, people think Bay Area, San Francisco. From 4 hours from there, you know.
Yeah.
Up in the mountains. And literally, like, when I first came here, I was working at a place, a metal shop in Spokane, and, you know, here I am, FOB, fresh off the boat, and all these guys are like, oh, you're not going to know what to do. And it's February. It's like, I got here the day after the Super Bowl in 2018. So all these guys I was working with are like, dude, you're not going to know what to do. I mean, do you know how to buy tires? Do you know how to drive? Do you know?
Buy tires?
Right. And I'm like, yeah, well, you know, it doesn't really snow here compared to where I'm from. And they're like, oh, whatever. You know, you're from California. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. You know, it doesn't really snow here that much compared to where I'm from. And then about 2 weeks in, there was a big snowstorm. Spokane got maybe 6 inches of snow, which, you know, it's a pretty good day of snow for Spokane.
Yeah.
And at the same time, my best friend from California who drives snowplow over Donner Summit is sending me pictures of his truck that had been sitting for 48 hours, and he's digging it out with a front loader and pulling it out with a chain from the 6 or 8 feet of snow that was on top of it and around it, you know. So I started showing these guys I worked with these pictures, and they were like, oh, shit. Yeah, that's the real deal right there. I'm like, yeah, that's the county that I'm from, which even though where I lived wasn't that bad, I mean, it was just right there, you know. And but where I lived, it's a little lower elevation, and we'd get, you know, snowstorms that literally you could get a foot of snow in the morning and have it be gone by 6 o'clock in the evening. By the time it gets dark or whatever. Most of the time it's gone. Sometimes it stick around for a week or two, but never like we're having here where you get snow in November, and that's going to be here until
Yeah, this
March.
shit's going to be hanging around until quite a while.
Right. This is pretty
Just
good.
fucking
winter.
annoying because then you can't get out on the bike and do anything.
Yeah.
Unless you're my wife, who's insane, and she's ridden, you know, like right before Christmas before.
Yeah.
Like last year.
I hope it was dry.
No, yeah. Last year we didn't really have a whole lot of snow. We just had some rain and stuff here and there.
Right.
But there was still ice on the ground, just not a lot.
Yeah.
And she was like, just itching. She was like, well, it's not fucking snowing, and it's like at least over 50. And so
Right.
she jumped on the fucking Harley and took off. I'm like, you're nuts, dude. I'm not fucking doing that.
Yeah, that's a little crazy. I don't know if I'd want to do that.
Well, they actually make snow tires for motorcycles.
Right.
Like, there's people out there that will put studded snow tires on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
And then you just get like the heated jacket and pants and all that.
Right.
You plug it in and then it
Yeah.
fucking keeps you all toasty warm. Like, fuck that.
Right.
The 2 wheels doesn't stay up that easy.
It's funny that's one of the things that you know you'd see. They had motorcycle races on ice where I come from, and you know, yeah, studded tires, no brakes on the bike. You know, circle track, oval, quarter-mile track of ice. And, I mean, these guys are literally just ripping around the track. And you're like, that's just insane. I mean, you have to grow up doing that. And just drifting a bike on ice with studded tires.
Yeah. I've heard of it, but I don't think I've ever actually seen it.
Yeah, your only method of slowing down is to kick that back wheel out.
You do like old BMX style when you're 12 and you just stick your foot in the back tire.
Right. No, I mean, they just throw the bike sideways and throttle it, you know.
Yeah.
And that slows you down, but that's the only way to do it. You can't haul ass through a straight away and then just take the corner.
Fuck that.
Yeah. So that didn't look like fun.
I don't know. I'm not averted to taking risks and having a good time, but man, calculated risk.
Right.
It's just not for
motorcycle racing on the ice.
me. Yeah. That just doesn't sound fun to me. It's fun to watch, but there's no way I'd do it.
Yeah.
So where are you from?
So I was born and raised in a suburb of Sacramento, Citrus Heights. And, it was kind of a suburban community to grow up in that was transitioning while I was growing up in it. And it was kind of a middle class area. And then as I got older into my teen years, it turned into more of a kind of I don't know how to say it. Some parts of the area were pretty slummy, you know, and a lot of crime happening. And
sounds like a lot of places in California.
Yeah, and it just kind of turned into this place where you really got to watch your back. And I got jumped. I got beat up. My wife got jumped and beat up. We met in high school, so we kind of went through this together. And things happened. My wife even got expelled from our high school because we'd gotten jumped by like 20 dudes, and it was me and her little brother, who was about 4 years younger, I believe. And we were actually on foot, and we were like 15, 16, and her brother was getting out of school, so we would go over to the elementary school and walk home with him. And all of a sudden, like, trucks
just to keep him from getting beat up.
Yeah, trucks pull up, and everybody's jumping out of the back of these trucks, and a fight ensues, and people got hurt, things happened, and turns out my wife had a little, like one of those little tiny keychain pocket knives in her possession when that happened. And
it's a good thing to have.
Yeah, well, she didn't kill anybody with it or anything like that, but she got expelled from school because somebody reported her for having it.
Yeah.
And the funny part about that is the guys that jumped us, nothing happened to them. They were the football team guys.
Oh, yeah, of course.
You know what I mean? And we were just some little punk rocker kids,
So the jocks get away with fucking with you.
Right. Yeah. So, that's kind of how we grew up in Citrus Heights, was that kind of shit happening. A lot of, there was just a lot of like gang violence and drugs and your shit's always getting stolen, all that stuff. Then, when I grew up and had a family of my own and everything, and my daughter got to be in like second or third grade, and here we are, we're getting ripped off all the time. Cars are getting the windows broke out in front of the house, and some kid got killed across the street from us. They never caught whoever did it, but somebody broke into the kid's house, 17-year-old kid. Somebody broke in and like killed him with a frying pan.
Like, just like fucking beat his head in?
Beat him to death all up and down the stairs, I guess. And, there was rumors going around of like drug deal gone bad kind of stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
But, it never really hit the papers really hard or nothing. And there was things like that happen. There was another shooting right in front of our house where some guy was going along breaking into cars, and the cops show up, and the two cops, a male and female cop, approached the guy, and the male cop had a mag light or flashlight, and the perpetrator grabbed the dude's flashlight and started beating the crap out of him with it.
Started beating the cop?
Yeah. And this female officer, shot him. Like right in front of her house. And, so there's just always stuff like that going on. So we eventually, when I was, it was 2005, we moved up to Grass Valley, California, Nevada City area. And it's the gold country. It's kind of a little bit of a touristy area.
So that's around where Weed, California, isn't it? No,
Weed, California is way up north by Oregon.
Oh, okay.
And we were like 2.5 hours south of that, probably southeast, more towards Tahoe area.
Oh, okay.
Like between Sacramento and Tahoe, and it's a small community. It would remind you of Wallace, Idaho, a lot. Old historic buildings.
Been there forever.
Been there forever and ever. 1849 gold rush. town, a lot of gold mines, old gold mines and stuff. They're all state parks now. You can go, check them out and all that kind of stuff. And, from there you get out in the backwoods and there's these mining towns that are just like maybe 30, 40 people tops, some of them, and ghost towns and places like that are just not even there anymore. Towns there's one town, it's called Iowa Hill, California. They have no power. Everything's generators. There's a bar in town, and it's also the post office and the library. And they've got a generator out back, and you don't want to be drunk in there and have to go pee when the generator runs out of gas.
Yeah.
So, single lane roads back in through the mountains and stuff, getting to places like that. And that's my stomping grounds. That's where I really grew up, fishing and four-wheeling and camping and all that stuff with my little girl and my wife and friends. And, we'd go out there and have, not rowdy parties or anything, but groups of us would go out and, just sit and camp and maybe have some drinks and, somebody's going to probably end up throwing up behind the tree or whatever. But the rest of us would be, it just depended on what day it was, whose night it was going to be for that kind of thing. We didn't all get crazy,
I can't remember how many times I've thrown up behind a tree.
Right. And so, we used to go do stuff like that. And so then, we eventually moved up to the foothills, and I had already had an established group of friends there and stuff that received us quite well. And so then we moved, to this small town in the mountains, and everything's nice, and the schools are better, and the job market there is a little weird. They have this thing called the pine cone discount, where because you get to live in a nice little town in a pretty area, you deserve to make less money. So, I worked there for a little while, and then I quickly went back to commuting to where I had worked before in the Sacramento area. And so now I'm driving 110 miles round trip to have a decent paying job and then be able to live somewhere. I used to have coworkers ask me, well, how do you make that drive every day? I get to get the fuck out of here every day.
Yeah, right.
And you got to stay here. You can go fuck around where I live on the weekend, and I get to go do it every day.
Yeah. Yeah, there's, even with a long commute, and I mean, fuck, LA traffic and all that, there's no way, not a chance in hell I'd ever want to do that. But
no.
When we lived over in Kellogg, like
right.
the hour drive, 40 minutes, 45 minutes, hour in the wintertime, that drive every day, I would get in the car and I'm still tired. I'm still barely awake.
Right.
But then by the time I got to work, I had that time to just wake up and listen to Howard Stern or, something funny and just actually have a good time on the way there.
Yeah.
And prepare myself for the day.
It's a good time to wind up in the morning and a good time to wind down in the afternoon.
Right. So when you leave on the way home, you have that hour drive back.
Right.
Where you're just kind of chilling and, getting out of that work mind on your way back home.
That's exactly the experience I had. By the time I got home, work was over. It was out of my mind. And, I've been listening to music. I'm a big music listener. Love to do that. So I would listen to music and sometimes, talk radio. I used to listen to Larry Elder religiously.
Larry Elder, why does that sound familiar?
He just ran for governor this last go around. He was labeled the black face of white supremacy. He's a black fellow, conservative, and those aren't well respected in California. So
yeah,
but he's had a radio show, still does.
Is that like Dave Chappelle, the blind black Klansman?
Yeah, I guess that's kind of the vibe they were trying to make him out to be this. But I listened to his show for 10 years probably, and it just happened to be on during my commute home.
Yeah,
on the AM radio, and he's, as a black conservative, he was always very attacked by listeners, and people would call in and say, "Hey, Larry, what do you think about this or that?" And he would give his honest, straight answer, and they would try to make it into something racial,
Yeah.
And it's something that's always kind of ticked me off about the world, is some people want there to be racism so badly.
Well, yeah. So there's a lot of people guaranteed that are trying to drive division,
Right.
Between everybody for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I mean, why the hell would you want that?
Right.
Just either your own stupid beliefs about, how everybody should be separate, or just because you don't like some other people.
Yeah.
Or something more underhanded and nefarious, some kind of government reasons.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, personally, I think that's part of why the media does it.
Sure.
They're all controlled by giant corporate conglomerates.
They use us against each other.
Exactly. I mean, that's if we're all fighting with each other over stupid shit and not paying attention to what's really going on, then they can do whatever they want in the background.
And then there's always those.
It's like,
people,
hey, look at this shiny ball, and we're all like, oh, sweet.
Right. And there's those people in the background that are just, like your neighbor or something. I don't know who your neighbor is or anything. I'm not referring to anybody specifically, but there's always those people that, they don't pay too much attention to all the stuff that's going on. They might pay attention to, Access Hollywood instead of the news or something. And then all they hear is the chatter about somebody being racist.
Yeah.
And that, you think about the number of voters that must be that don't really know, but they just heard that Larry Elder is racist.
Right.
Well,
do me a favor, squeeze the little ears on the front of that mic holder and turn the mic so that the label's more towards you. There you go.
Okay.
Yeah. They're directional, and they only pick up in a certain range. Right. Yeah. So like I was saying earlier, if you want to get comfy, just take it with you. Yeah. Grab it, move it around.
Well, I'm hearing less echo now since I did
Exactly.
that.
Yeah. Because if you're off to the side, then it's picking up what's bouncing off the walls instead of what's right in front of you.
Yep. I'm a bit of an audiophile. I understand it.
Oh, okay. Sorry to mansplain audio.
That's one of the things I've been doing with my winter downtime.
Mansplaining audio shit to your wife?
Yeah, a lot. I spent probably way too much money on a home audio theater system.
Oh, yeah.
Recently,
Jameson, my friend Jameson, when I had him on, I was telling him all about your insane fucking turntable and your speakers, how you've got everything set up.
Almost everything that you've seen there is gone.
Oh, that's right.
Replaced.
Yeah, you were telling me recently you just changed everything out. Yeah.
I still have the same turntable, but I added a different preamp to it and got a new receiver, new speakers, all that stuff. Put some stuff in the ceiling for Atmos and new TV, that kind of thing. But
I remember that Christmas party or whatever, or New Year's at your place, and you're like, no, you gotta sit right here in the middle of the couch. You gotta check this out.
Right. Yeah, everything's time aligned for a specific listening position.
Yeah, you weren't fucking kidding. You turned it on, and I remember it was a Metallica Black Album, and I was like, holy shit, where are they?
Right. Yeah, if you get everything time aligned correctly and level matched, and each speaker is EQ'd separately and everything.
Yeah, you're talking time aligned, like you have a delay and all that latency for every single speaker.
Yeah, so that even though when you're sitting in a room, I learned all this stuff from car audio. Think about sitting in a car. You're obviously closer to the speaker at the driver's side.
Right.
So you can time align that to where there's a bit of a delay in the speakers that are closer to you. We're talking milliseconds. So that, relative to the speed of sound, the sound from each speaker is getting to you at the same time. So it becomes a lot like wearing headphones. Headphones are perfect because they're the same distance from your ears.
Yes.
If you pull one out, the sound stage and the imaging and the tonality dies. If you just grab one headphone and pull it out 3 inches from your ear, everything just died. So if you're sitting in the right spot in a good home theater system that's tuned correctly, a lot of people have all this nice stuff and they don't know how to do that. They don't know how to tune it properly, and they never get that full benefit out of it.
Yeah, which is funny because doing all of this stuff, like I've learned a lot more about shit like that.
Right.
And still, until talking to you about this, I would have never thought of that.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously, my living room is somewhere where we have to live. So you can't just be sitting there with all these speakers around you in a circle that's perfectly measured out from your head.
Well, I'm sure you could.
Right? My wife would not approve. But that's something I did when I was a kid, though. I had like a hand-me-down Pioneer system, from the 70s. And I would lay on the floor right in between the two speakers and just listen. And you get this like feeling that you're actually there. You know, that you're in a studio or a live performance. And I used to hate live albums, you know. Live albums, they don't sound as good as the record. And then if you have something that's set up right, or you wear a pair of headphones even, you get the experience.
Right. Well, just on live albums, just, I don't know. It's kind of a toss up, because a live album, a lot of times you get stuff extra, right?
Right.
You get little things that you don't get on the studio version.
Right.
But then it usually never sounds the same, because it's live and they've been traveling around, you know, every night doing the same show, singing all the same songs, like for, I mean, it could be a year that they've been on the road and they're kind of over it.
Right. A little wore out too.
Yeah. So it's like, fuck, I don't want to sing this song again for the 1000th time, but I don't, you know. But then you get a good band that just loves doing what they do, and they don't care. They'll sing the same song every night, and they put every amount of effort and soul and heart into it.
The best live recording I've ever heard is the Eagles' Hell Freezes Over.
Yeah.
They
That's a great one.
such a good job with that. And if you sit down with that, and you know, the system that I've set up, especially with the vinyl, and vinyl it's a physical media. You have to get up and flip the record every 20 minutes or so, you know. So it's not for putting on some background music to listen to while you make dinner, or listen to while you're on your phone with, you know, Facebook or something. It's not a system for passive listening. It's for listening when you're not doing anything else.
Yeah. To sit down and just actually immerse yourself and enjoy it.
Right. I really enjoy that. It's something I enjoyed in my childhood, like I said, with the old Pioneer system that I don't even know where it came from. It might have came from my dad or something like that.
Yeah, garage sale.
Yeah, I was probably a little too young for anybody to buy me something like that.
Yeah. We had one. I don't know if it was a Pioneer or if it was like some old Sony or, you know, some Japanese brand or something.
Right.
But it actually, I think my mom got it from either a rummage sale or something, but it had the turntable on the top, and then it had the 2 tape decks so you could do dubbing,
right?
And then, you know, the radio, and but it also had an 8-track.
Yeah.
And so when she found the stereo, she was digging around and she actually found like this big case of 8-track tapes.
Wow.
So as a kid, like, because that's what we had.
Yeah.
Like, I actually grew up in this day and age at that time in the 90s listening to 8-track tapes.
Yeah.
So like, you know, Kool and the Gang and Casey and the Sunshine Band and like Waylon Jennings and shit. All of that stuff on 8-track.
I'm barely old enough. I'm 45. I was born in 77. So I'm barely old enough to remember when that was all there was. It was vinyl or 8-tracks.
Yeah.
And then cassettes came out. Sounded like shit. But you could take them in the car.
Right?
You know?
Yeah. It's a tiny little thing. And yeah, it's weird. Like cassette tapes, they would drop so much more of like the mids.
Yeah.
The highs were really high and the lows are really low, and it's very muddy.
Yeah.
I remember
that. And the second time you listen to it, it's worse.
Yeah, because it's already stretched out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, you know, CDs came out back in the early 80s, but nobody could afford that until I think it was about 93 or 4 I finally got a CD player, and it was a Walkman portable CD player, but it was the first time you could buy a CD player for under $100. It was $99. And I was probably 16 or 17. And, you know, you got a CD player. That's badass. And then, you know, after I grew up and got my own apartment and everything, we finally got a 5-disc carousel deal, you know. And I remember all the neighbors wanted to come over and see it. You know, other neighbor, we had lived in it was almost like a college.
The 5-disc changer.
Yeah. So the apartments we lived in was almost like a college atmosphere, you know. Mostly young people, and we all you know, partied together and stuff. And I remember, we were out at the pool one day. And I was like, we got a 5-disc CD changer, you know, and everybody was like, no shit. Wow. You know, that's cool.
Fucking living the big life.
Right. And that was probably in like 97 or something, you know.
I remember my first CD was oh man, what the hell was that band? it was 90s. Quad City DJs. Come on, ride the train.
Oh, yeah,
and ride it.
Right.
I have no idea why, but I was obsessed with that one song.
Yeah.
And so one year for Christmas, my mom, like, she saved a buttload of money, and she got me and my brother like the same Walkman CD player like set thing that came with a case and all these accessories and shit. And she got each of us one CD.
Yeah.
And so she got me that one, and I think she just had no idea what he liked. And so he got the Village People's Greatest Hits.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Yeah, the first vinyl record I ever had was The Gambler.
Okay.
Kenny Rogers.
Yeah.
And I used to play that when I was like 5. And at 5 I knew how to like load a record and get it playing and everything, you know. And that's something that seems foreign today. I mean, my grandson's 7, and I wouldn't want him doing that with my
right?
my stuff.
Yeah.
He'll get taught as soon as I think it's right, you know.
How many grooves are on a 45?
I don't know, but a 12-inch 33 has approximately 3/4 of a mile of groove. But I know that.
One.
Right. Yeah, one groove. There you go.
It's one groove because it just spirals all the way in. I didn't know that.
I do have a record that's got a split groove.
Oh, does it?
So when you drop the needle, it's a Jack White album. Can't recall the name of it right now. But the only reason, I'm not a big Jack White fan, but the only reason I bought this record is because of the cool features on it. It's got like some holographic stuff in the grooves.
Oh, that's crazy.
As it spins, you know, you have a light shining on it. As it spins, there's actually pictures moving around in the grooves.
That's fucking rad.
Right. So the first song on the album, you drop the needle, and there's 2 different intros to the track, and you don't know which one you're going to get. Whichever way, there's a Y in the groove, and whichever way that the needle follows.
So it's kind of like a switch track on the railroad. It's just one way or the other.
And there's an electric guitar intro to the song, and there's an acoustic guitar intro to the song, and then they both feed into the same song.
That's fucking genius.
What a trip. It's the only reason I bought the record. No, I don't really care for the music that much, but I thought it was neat to have.
Yeah. Fuck, they should have done more of those, man.
Yeah, there's starting to be some more stuff like that. I have a Rush 2112 that's got the holographic thing. It's got the little star that's on the album cover.
Okay.
And if you look at the middle, more center portion of the record, not quite to the label, but between the music and the label.
Yeah.
The groove.
Like that outer ring there.
The inner ring.
Oh, yeah.
Between the music and the label.
Yeah.
If you look at that in a light, it's got that little star with a circle around it. It's not a pentagram, but it's similar. But it sits there and it spins around in one spot on the record as it's playing. You know, you have to know it's there. You wouldn't just walk by and notice it. You have to like look and see it's there. And it's a Rush 2112, but you know, which is from the 70s. But this is a new pressing of it. They didn't have any of that technology back in the day.
Yeah, that groove question was on the trivia game last night at the Christmas party.
Oh, really?
Christmas party, yeah. And I felt like such a dumbass because I'm like trying to math it in my head.
Right.
So I'm like, well, it spins at 45 RPM. So like if you figure a song is, you know, average 3 minutes and blah, 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 blah. And so I pull out my phone and I'm like trying to,
how many times it goes around. 45 times a minute. You know?
Right. And so then at the end, like when we get past that round and they're telling us the answers to all the questions, how many grooves are on a 45? 1.
Right.
And then my wife looks at me and she goes, oh yeah, because it's a spiral. It's 1 that goes all the way in. And I'm like, fucking stupid son of a bitch.
Actually, I would argue that there's 2.
2?
Yeah. I mean, you can flip it over, right?
Yeah. Smart.
Right?
That's right. Technically, there is 2.
Yeah. Unless I do have some records that only have one side. I have
like demos?
No, I have a Disturbed album, and it's
Disturbed did vinyl?
Oh yeah, you can buy anybody on vinyl nowadays. Just about. You can't just go buy anything you want. Because there's only so many, all the record machines that press these records are from at least the 70s.
Yeah.
And
they're probably not making new ones anymore.
Yeah, and there's only so many of them left. Metallica bought their own.
Oh, for real?
Yeah. Metallica has their own record press.
Makes sense. I'm sure that was a Lars thing.
Maybe. I don't know. It seems more like an asshole thing if Lars did it. But.
Well, yeah. Again, that makes sense.
Yeah, but yeah, I have a Disturbed. I have a couple others, but one of them's a Disturbed album that's it's a double disc, but it's only 3 sides. So what they did on the 4th side is there's like a laser etched picture of the album cover monster that's on there, you know. So yeah, you flip the last one over. I also have one. It's the Who, not the Who, like Who Are You, the Who. It's a Mongolian metal band.
I think you showed me that one time.
Yeah. And so they're really cool. They don't play the same instruments there that we have here, you know. So they play.
They're playing like lutes and.
Yeah, they got all this weird, really cool stuff, and they make a heavy metal sound out of it.
It's like a Chinese banjo.
Right, and so you know the throat singing,
the fucking guttural shit.
Yeah. Right, and it's pretty cool.
It's like fucking like Cannibal Corpse.
Yeah.
You know, like death metal and shit. Right. Those guys would be great at that.
Yeah. So anyways, yeah, it's another 3-sided record, and the back side of it, you know, it's black vinyl, and it's just got etched into it like you would see etched in glass, like how they etch glass where it's frosted in certain areas.
I had a friend that used to do that with a sandblaster.
Right. So it looks like that, but it's like this big dragon thing, some Mongolian cool thing, you know.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, collecting this new wave of vinyl stuff is kind of interesting. It's hard to find. It's hard to, you know, sometimes there's an album I used to really like back in the 80s or 90s, and then you look for it and you find it and it's like, oh, well, you can't even touch that for under $100, you know. And then you just wait and maybe they'll press it again and you can get one for, records are minimum, you know, $25 now, and most of them go for 40 something bucks.
Yeah.
So it's a little expensive, but compared to, you know, like back in the day, you used to get them for $3, you know. That's what they cost new. When I was a kid, was $3 or $4, you know, and then
that was also like, you know, the 80s.
Yeah, and then they went out of style with CDs and tapes and everything, and then the MP3s and all that stuff.
Fucking Betamax.
Right. They went Betamax, and you know, I've had a stack of records that I've carried around with me for 30 years plus. That's my stepdad ended up with like a footlocker full of records that came from a radio station, probably in the early 80s. Because that's kind of
those have probably been played a bit.
Well, what they did with them is they played them one time and they transferred them to tape, like reel-to-reel tape.
Yeah.
So they'd all been played once, and I'm talking every single Black Sabbath album from 1970 on up to when Dio was the singer.
Damn.
And everything in between. You know, all the old Scorpions albums. Metallica, Ride the Lightning. These are all first pressings when they first came out.
Nice.
You know, probably pressed before these ever even hit the market because they were going to a radio station. But he ended up with them in some kind of a trade for work. He liked to do that. He's a barterer, you know. And then he let me go through them at one point and said, hey, you know, anything in here that you would like to keep, take it and keep it, but, you know, take care of it. All right. So I did. I went through and I grabbed about a 10-inch stack of records, and you know, it was all the cool stuff when I was a kid that I listened to, you know, AC/DC, Back in Black, you know, Ozzy Osbourne, Bark at the Moon, that kind of stuff, and Metallica, Ride the Lightning. That record today is worth hundreds of dollars, you know.
Yeah. That's a great album.
Yeah, I've seen them listed for like $1,000, but I don't think that's what I could get out of it or anything. But you know, a 10-inch stack of records like that I've hauled around with me my whole life. And then a couple Christmases ago, my daughter asked me, because she was getting into this new vinyl craze, you know, that I wasn't paying any attention to. And she asked me, hey, can I have all those records you got? I said, absolutely not. Like, absolutely no way. You can listen to it.
Hey, Dad, can I just have your record collection?
Right. And, you know, she's
I'll put it in my will.
She's like 26 at the time. You know, she's not a kid. But she's like, yeah, I'd like to have those. I'm like, well, I really am not ready to let go of them. So Christmas time comes along, and she buys me a turntable, and it was a very entry-level turntable, and it piqued my interest. I hooked it up to the home theater system that we had, and a stereo system and all that, and started listening to some of those old records, and then I found out there's a couple record stores in town, and go buy some stuff.
You got the long ear?
Yeah, the long ear, and then there's another place over in Spokane that I really hate going to because I hate driving in Spokane.
Yeah.
But
Spokane sucks.
Right. But they had everything over there, so bought some stuff there, and order stuff off the internet, and and then I decided I wanted a better turntable, so I looked into it and did some research, and I found this company called Project that makes they make every part for their turntable in house, including the MDF.
Oh, nice.
That it's the base of it's made out of and everything, so they can have quality control.
Yeah, keep it all in house.
Right. So they make everything themselves, and it's these things go up to $10,000+
Jesus.
But that's not what I wanted to do, So I got one that was $500 or something, but I could grow on it, and change the stylus out, and change things about it, and it's going to be perfectly quiet, and it's going to sound good. And since then I've upgraded the stylus to it, and I put another preamp in front of it, and with tubes and everything, and run that into the home theater. You get just a really nice sound out of it. And then caught the bug, bought a bunch of speakers and different things, and it's a fun hobby, and it's something, most hobbies cost money. This one doesn't have to cost money all the time.
Yeah.
If I don't want to spend any money, I can just listen to my collection.
Right.
And now I'm up to a few hundred albums. I don't know really, but we go looking for them. Me and the wife kind of do it together, and we go looking for them, and we find stuff that we like. Like she recently found a Heart record.
Oh yeah.
That it was Dreamboat Annie. Their I believe their first album, and it was an incredible find. It was a audiophile version of Dreamboat Annie. It was made a year after the record came out, so I believe like 78 it was made, but it's like a half-speed master, high quality audiophile grade record, and we found it at the Long Ear for like $20.
So audiophiles that have like a bunch of extra shit and cool stuff on it?
Well, audiophile grade records they're thicker and the grooves are deeper.
Okay.
They sound better. They're made out of virgin vinyl. A lot of records are made out of recycled vinyl, which will have a slight think about like a little bit of a roughness to them. Think about recycled paper versus brand new sheet of paper. So they do have a sound. It's all mechanical. It's analog, man.
Yeah, the clicks and pops and all that.
Well, clicks and pops come mostly from static electricity and or dust. But just a white noise. There will be a white noise present in a recycled record that's not great quality. They didn't make those back in the day. If you buy an old record, it's not recycled vinyl.
Yeah. Just back then, they were pressing all new records.
Right. They just didn't do that back then. But so she finds this Dreamboat Annie record, and we're like pretty stoked about it. She'd been looking for some Heart records, and then just a few weeks ago, she found another Heart record from the 80s. I forget the name of the record, but the big one from the 80s.
They sang Barracuda, didn't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
So she found the one from the 80s. She was really stoked about that because that's the one she remembered her mom had, and blah, 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 all this stuff, So we go to check out, and of course the dorky record guy at the record store, he's like, oh man, every time we get Heart records, they're gone right away. And we're like, oh yeah, we've been having a hard time finding them too, And he goes, yeah, the one everybody wants is that Dreamboat Annie. And I'm like, you gotta be shitting me. We just found that a couple months ago. And we have a A1 grade copy of it. you know.
So is he trying to buy it off you?
No, we just told him, oh, yeah, we got that one. You know, we didn't tell him what we had or anything. But yeah, it's interesting, the stuff you come across in these antique records.
Yeah.
And the new stuff, yeah, they do these features, you know, like I was talking about with the Jack White album. You know, they do different things.
Well, yeah, just what you were talking about with the, you know, the split track.
Right. That's just weird. Right.
Well, I mean, it's weird, but it's fucking awesome.
Right.
Like I love the fact that it's random. Like you don't know which intro you're gonna get.
You can't even you know, those things, those grooves are microscopic.
Oh yeah.
There's no way in hell that you could pick one or the other.
Yeah, you just got to let it ride.
Yeah, you just drop the needle, and if it's not the one you wanted to hear, you pick it up and do it again. You know,
redo.
Really
yeah, it's fucking cool.
Yeah.
So you guys moved into an apartment, and you were the big dogs on the block with your 5-disc changer.
I guess you could say that.
The Richie Riches.
Yeah.
So where'd you go from there?
Well, let's backtrack a little bit. Okay, so me and my wife met in high school. She was 15, I was 16, and we had a child at 17 and 16.
Jeez, you guys didn't waste any time.
Right. Yeah. I don't know what it was. Something to do with me.
And that's your oldest daughter, right?
That's my only daughter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Something to do with me being really attractive, I guess. I don't know. It probably wasn't
fucking sexy bitch.
So anyways, yeah, you know, we had a child very young, and we were both.
That's why you and Dante get along so well. You're
right.
both just sexy motherfuckers.
I guess so. He's a lot sexier than I am.
But he's just younger.
So yeah, you know, we had a kid real young, and we had to make life work quickly, and
well, yeah. Kind of get thrown into the mix and not fucking know anything.
Yeah, there was some weird things with her family and my family both that happened, as far as, you know, being some of our family kind of wrote us off as losers and that kind of thing, and then
that happens.
Some other family literally tried to do everything they could and drastic steps to separate us, you know. Telling Christy, oh, you know, this baby won't need a dad, you know, that kind of thing.
That's fucked up.
Right. So stuff like that happened without naming any names or even which side of the family it was or anything. But so, you know, some people in her family invited us to come stay with them. Of course, we weren't even adults yet. We couldn't just go make everything on our own. We worked. We paid for everything ourselves. We didn't rely on the government. We didn't rely on our parents to support our child or us. So, you know, somebody in her family invited us to come stay with them, you know, a few hours away from home. And within a month, I was kicked out of their house. I was accused of doing something I didn't do, which was so trivial. It was literally, they accused me of stealing change out of the change jar. And kicked me out of the house. And it happened to be my payday. I didn't need their money. You know what I mean? So that happened. I went back to my mom's house, and Christy, my wife, and my daughter Brianna stayed behind. And I went back to my mom's house, and you know, it was a couple hours away. And I immediately, you know, got another job and started to work towards getting my own place. You know, I'm 18 now at this point. And
so you're a legal adult,
right? So I can
doing things yourself.
I can go get an apartment, you know. And my wife and daughter were still living with the other folks. And me and a buddy of mine, he had a 1978 Dodge camper van with a raised top and everything, you know, a little motorhome thing. So we drove up there and picked up all of our belongings, that, you know, furniture and things we'd collected that were stored in the garage of their house, and did this while they weren't home. And
usually best.
Right. You know, drove back to Sacramento, and a couple days later I had an apartment, and we moved into an apartment, and we've, you know, been on our own since. And yeah, you know, that was in Rancho Cordova, California, kind of kind of a crappy area. Our rent was $350 a month for a 1-bedroom apartment, you know. And it's kind of how it all got started. And then, you know, we moved around a little bit in that area, and then off to the foothills in California. Stayed there for 15 years. Wife worked at the same place. Actually, it was 13 years. But and I was commuting the whole time, and I had a job. I was a production manager for a fire engine manufacturing facility.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I was there for quite a few years. I took a little break when we moved up to the hills. I took a little break at another job for like 16 months, and then decided that wasn't for me and went back. What a cool thing, man. I was building fire trucks, you know. I was welding and running machinery, press brakes, and you know, doing all kinds of assembly and, you know, wiring fire trucks and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And then, you know, worked my way into being the production manager. And then about right when the big recession hit in California in 2008, my boss had made a major mistake. He did a bid for a bunch of crew buses, for like inmate buses.
Oh yeah, like for prison?
Yeah, for fire crew inmates. And
fire crew inmates?
Yeah, the inmates would go out and fight the fires.
Oh.
You know, so these buses would take the inmates around. And this was for Orange County, California, down in Southern California, was who the contract was for. And it was for like 12 or 15 of these buses. But one of the things that was in the contract was our company was supposed to supply crash test data for these buses. So that means you literally have to build a bus and then pay somebody to fuck it up.
Yeah.
You know, and then and take data. He didn't read that part of the contract, and he took he bid on it and got it, and he went out and spent $1 million on chassis, you know, big international Navistar 4-wheel drive trucks, big trucks. Yeah, you know, they're $100-something thousand bucks. You know, he went out and bought all the ones that he needed for this contract, and he discovered, you know, that he wasn't going to be able to supply this crash test data for the price that he had agreed to do this job for. And what happens in California if you bid on a government project like that and then it ends up that you can't perform the contract, it goes to the next highest bidder, but you get to pay the difference between those two bids.
Oh.
So if that guy, and you're talking millions of dollars here, you know.
Yeah. So if your contract is $1 million and theirs was $2 million, you now have to pay
the million.
The million. Yeah.
Right. So what generally would happen with that case is, you know, whoever the next bidder is, you would sell them.
Who's fucking messaging you?
I don't know. Let me turn that off.
You gotta shut that shit down, man.
But anyways, whoever takes the contract, the next bidder would generally buy you out of everything that you've purchased for the project.
Yeah.
All the materials, you know, these chassis, that kind of stuff. Well, our competitor decided that they could put us out of business by not buying anything from the company I worked for.
Well, yeah, because then you're left with all of that fucking shit, and what are you supposed to do with it?
Right. And so the contracting stuff changed in the state of California. Arnold Schwarzenegger was the governor at the time, and what happened was there used to be a 10% bid preference for a California business to do this kind of work for the state. So if you bid on this job for $1 million, the next highest bidder would, if it was an out-of-state bidder, they could only bid $900,000 to get the work, because we had a 10% preference for an in-state company. The government in California at the time thought it would be a good way to save some money to eliminate that, so that they could take outside of the state bids, and let's say if it was $950, then that company would win it, right? So if you're in California and you bid $1 million on a job, and somebody in Nevada bids $900,000, then you're even. If he bids $900,001, you get the job at $1 million, because you're in California. if he bid it at $899,999, the out of state. So anyways, what they did is they eliminated that bid preference to where, you know, the company from Nevada, let's say, could bid $999,999 against your $1 million, and they would get the job.
Because they're $1 less.
Right. So that took a lot of money away from the company that I worked for. Right about the same time as the big snafu with the crash testing happened. So, and here I am, it's 2007 or 8 or whatever. And I had bought a home a couple years before that, and it was upside down as hell. And
But yeah, especially in 2008 when the fucking when the crash happened.
Right. My mortgage, I had an adjustable rate mortgage. And what happened was they more than doubled my rate. They took my rate from like 4.25 up to 9.5. You know, my payment jumped from $1,600 up to like $35 a month. So I you know, and this is early in the game. This is early in that recession where there was no such thing as what they call like a loan modification or anything.
Right.
That wasn't even language yet.
Did you ever see that movie, The Big Short?
No.
You need to watch that. It's a fucking great movie. It goes into all about like how that whole thing happened.
Right.
You know, with the 2008 crash and the housing market and all that, and like what actually happened, and just the fucking sharks in the banking system and on Wall Street that were selling all these ridiculous fucking loans to people who they knew couldn't afford them.
Right.
But you know, at the time, they just made it look on paper like, oh yeah, you know, it's so great.
Well, here's what the thing is when we bought that place, the common wisdom was if they'll let you buy a house, you got to buy it, because everything was going up in value so much, a lot like it has been here in Coeur d'Alene. Very similar to that. And the common wisdom was if they'll let you buy a house, you buy the son of a bitch, because it's going to go up in value. You get as much as they'll let you have.
Yeah, because everybody was looking at it as an investment.
Like, right.
You need to be a homeowner. You need to buy a house.
Yeah, and this wasn't even a house I particularly wanted.
Yeah.
It was the house I could get.
Yeah, but that was the thing, is they weren't ever telling anybody, like, in all of this whole process, like, be smart about what you're buying.
Right.
You know, what are you getting for your money? You look towards the future, all this stuff. They were literally just pushing into everybody's faces, buy a house, be a homeowner. Right.
And the situation that left us in was a couple years later. Here I am, you know, my wife was in the medical industry, as an administrative, like medical billing person type of thing, and scheduling and, you know, general doctor's office duties kind of things. And I was a production manager for a fire engine company. And we couldn't afford to keep our condo. It wasn't even a house.
Yeah.
You know, it was a condo. And I remember being on the phone with my mother telling her, yeah, we're in trouble. Our mortgages did this and this and this. And I said, you know, it feels to me like we're not going to be the only ones in this situation. If I'm a production manager of a fire engine manufacturing company, and my wife's in the medical field where everybody's supposed to be going if they want to make money,
right?
And we can't keep our condo, then this is going to happen to a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
And at that point, when they sent me the monthly statement from the bank saying, you know, you owe $35 or $600 for your mortgage this month, I called them up and I said, look, you can put that back where it was and I'll give you all the money. But other than that, I'm not going to give you any money, you know? So I wouldn't actually bought a safe. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know, you know, can anybody grab my money out of my bank account or what, you know?
Yeah, just really, government can.
I just really didn't know. They can't do that with a mortgage.
Well, yeah.
But I didn't know. And I didn't want to have a bunch of money sitting in a bank account. You know, like what if we had to file bankruptcy or something, you know? Right. So what I did was I went down to Staples and bought a small safe, and then I started putting my mortgage payment in it in cash. And then by the time we ended up
squirreling it away every month.
By the time we ended up having to leave that house, you know, I had a pretty good stack of cash. We paid off you know, all of our, you know, credit card bills or anything we had.
So you just paid everything but the mortgage?
Yeah. And so, you know, we left the house and that was gone. We paid $230,000 or $259,000 for that house. it got auctioned off for $95,000.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there was nothing there was no refi-ing, there's no, no selling it or anything. I mean, you just can't, there's nothing we could do.
Yeah. So many people got fucked by that whole thing.
Yeah.
It was surprising because, it wasn't just, it wasn't just poor folks and stuff. It was, I mean, all the way up the chain.
Right.
You had like aeronautical engineers and shit that ended up getting fucked too, and they're living in a tent somewhere,
right,
trying to find a job.
Yeah. Especially in that state.
Yeah.
So I forget where I was going next.
So you guys, the house got auctioned for $95,000.
Okay, yeah.
Left.
So we left the house, and it, eventually got auctioned off. That took a long time too. We moved into a rental house, which was a much nicer house, and it cost us half the money every month in this rental house. And 2 weeks after we moved out of that house is when I lost my job at the fire truck place. 2 weeks later. I was thinking, man, okay, cool. So we're going to move into this house. Our rent's going to be cheap, and we can get ahead. We've got some damage to us from the foreclosure. This will be a good chance to get ahead. Sock up some cash. I just won't buy anything for a while unless I pay cash for it.
Yeah.
You need a car, go buy a $6,000 or $7,000 car, pay cash for it. Keep the money in the bank. Quit giving it to the mortgage company, So, but yeah, 2 weeks later, I lose my job, man. And this was January 2008. And then, you lose your job, you go get another one, right?
You would think so.
There aren't any.
Yeah.
There are none. First of all, being in the metalworking industry, which is kind of the decided career path I chose not too long after my daughter was born. I was building race cars and that kind of thing. And, I ended up working for some places that did like electronics, components, sheet metal stuff, real high precision type of things. And very technical. And it's a skill set that I had developed from people that knew what they were doing for many years, and that they taught me these things, and I learned them, and I thought, wow, in a year's time, I'm going to make as much money as that guy that's teaching me. Mm-hmm. But, the guy that was teaching me how to run, let's say a press brake, for instance, the guy that was teaching me how to run a press brake in 1998 made the same amount of money that I did in 2018, 20 years later, doing the same job. And that's all I could get. Yeah.
So, I mean, basically, cost of living and a little bit of inflation.
Oh, huge cost of living in 20 years.
Yeah.
And inflation over the 20 years. Absolutely huge. But what had happened was in California, it had become such a not business-friendly environment that all these manufacturing jobs went elsewhere. They went to other states. But it left behind literally millions of people like me with the same skill set I had. It left behind...
Flooded the market.
Just, yeah. And so to even have a job in that industry, I didn't even... After the fire truck place, I didn't even get back into that industry for like 4 years. I did some handyman work for a while. I bought an old van, did some handyman work for a while. Had a lot of downtime, did a lot of fishing, that kind of stuff. But between me and the wife, who kept her job all through the recession, we kept the bills paid, and we didn't die, Yeah. It was tough. I remember being on the phone with unemployment, burning cardboard in my fireplace, wondering where my check's at, And that's no bullshit.
I bet.
But
I'm sure you weren't the only one.
Right. There's lots of us. So anyways, it was another 4 years or so before I even got back into that industry. And I was building truck bodies again. More, not fire trucks, but like plumbing trucks and electrical trucks and flatbeds and dump trucks and that kind of thing. On anything from a half-ton chassis on up to, like transfer dumps, that kind of stuff. Big transfer dumps, super dumps, all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I did that up until I left California, worked for that same company. But, when I got there, they had taken away all the medical benefits that, they couldn't afford that. I took the job at $15 an hour, and I think I left at $19 an hour, $20 an hour, something like that when I left California. And, you know, those are just bottom of the barrel wages for a skilled person. You know, I didn't want to go back into management or anything. So yeah, I took that job. I started there in 2012 and enjoyed the job. Loved the people, great guys that I worked with. And just about a year later, I had a heart attack at 36 years old with no medical insurance.
Damn.
Because my employer couldn't afford.
Yeah, that's expensive.
To give me medical insurance, you know. My wife had it through her job, but it would have been, you know, a prohibiting amount of money for me to be on there, on her plan. She had this golden parachute plan, and if I wanted to be on it, that's what I had to have, you know, for, I don't remember how much money, but it was more than I was able to pay for medical insurance, you know.
Well, at that same time, 2008, 2009 era.
Yeah.
Is that when, what is it, the Affordable Care Act and bullshit came in, or was that?
Well, that was late. That was later,
Yeah.
but by the time that happened, the company that I worked for there had already brought back their benefits. They had done well enough to bring it back, but there was a gap there where I didn't have anything, and then you know, I had a out of the blue at 36 years old. You know, I'm not like a coke addict or anything, but I just had a heart attack one morning, and ended up having a quadruple bypass surgery. Spent 9 days in the hospital, $350,000 bill, which, you know, I was eventually able to negotiate with the hospital on that stuff, and I paid out of pocket about $8,000 or something before everything got settled. So
I imagine a lot of stress from everything going on probably didn't help much.
Yeah, you know, that's probably a big part of it too. The heart attack that I had wasn't your typical heart attack. You know, a lot of people think about, well, that guy must have just abused himself, or
well, I mean, especially you know, at 36,
Right.
You would think, oh, too many Wrangler burgers, not enough exercise.
Right. And I even had close personal friends that were like, "What did you do, bro?" You know? And I'm like, "Well, you know, I didn't really do anything." The night before,
poppers or what?
The night before, I actually had a couple of beers with some friends and got home.
What kind of beer?
Coors Light.
Oh, that might be what did it.
Yeah, it has to be it. But
the mountains weren't blue. You fucked yourself up.
Right. So, you know, I got home after having beers with friends, and my cousin was actually getting married the next day, and, you know, planning on going to a wedding. And I went to bed, and about 1 o'clock in the morning, I woke up feeling funny. Something's not right kind of feeling. And I thought maybe it's a heart attack, you know? So I got up out of bed and went in the bathroom, and I took an aspirin, and, you know,
That probably saved your life.
well, it absolutely saved my life, 100%. Took an aspirin, you know, just regular 325 milligram aspirin, and went back to bed, kind of like an idiot, and then woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning in a full blown heart attack. And what had happened is I had some aneurysms on my coronary arteries that filled up with blood clots. So I didn't have your normal, like, cholesterol issues and stuff,
blockage,
you know?
or anything.
Yeah, nothing like that. So I had blockages from these blood clots that formed in these aneurysms in my coronary arteries. And, you know, they did the open heart surgery and all that stuff, and I recovered from that. Took a little while, but recovered from that, got back to work, all that. And then, you know, I started having some more problems with health issues. You know, I would start pissing blood and that kind of thing, you know. And one day at work, I completely just broke down in pain in my side and my abdomen. Just completely took me to the floor. I was wearing coveralls. My boss had to peel my coveralls off of me and take me to the hospital. I had been going to the doctor trying to figure out what this issue was with me pissing blood. And they had done tests, you know, running cameras up my urethra, and It's always interesting. It's funny how they
It makes my dick hurt just thinking about it.
It's funny how they get through your prostate. They just kind of like, okay, and you feel it like this intense feeling like you really have to pee, and then they kind of like, you know, that's when they're like bumping against it,
Yeah.
and then they go, okay, 1, 2, 3, boom, we're through. You know, you're like, oh fuck. So
And the doctor's got a finger in your ass massaging it. And
yeah, I wish.
you're not sure why. 'Cause you don't remember it being a part of the procedure.
Right.
He's got a big smile on his face.
So anyways, my boss takes me to the hospital one day, and you know, so I had just been to the doctor like within the last couple of days, and they'd done more tests and everything, and I finally had an ultrasound done. This is like a day or two before I ended up in the emergency room, but they had done an ultrasound on me like 2 days before to look around in there, and this is the first imaging I'd had done in my abdomen. Probably since the heart thing, and I think the heart thing, they probably concentrated on my upper torso. So, you know, and this was lower torso. So here I am in the ER, and you know, at one point I'm standing in the hallway. I just came out of the bathroom with the pee cup, you know, and I'm standing in the hallway with like a cup of V8 juice, you know, and a couple of nurses,
gross.
a couple of nurses that not related to me, my case or anything, come walking by, and they're just like, oh my God. And they went and got somebody like, this guy's got an issue, you know? And so the doctor, the ER doctor,
We need celery stat.
right. The ER doctor makes some calls and whatnot, and I hadn't got the results of this ultrasound yet, but he called the people that did it and you know, got the results himself, and then he informed me that I have a genetic kidney disease called polycystic kidney disease, which if you've ever heard of that thing where people get giant kidneys, you know, that's what it is. I had never heard of it, didn't know a thing about it. Went through the whole heart thing, surgery, opened up my abdomen and everything, and they didn't discover it or anything, you know. And this is all happening like 2 years after the heart attack, or 2 years later.
So even with all their poking around after the heart attack, they didn't even notice.
Nothing came. Even, you know, all the testing and everything.
Yeah.
And
It's kind of crazy that they didn't.
The only
anything.
thing that can diagnose this kidney disease, it won't show up in your blood. Well, there's two ways to diagnose it. There's one is an ultrasound or some kind of imaging that shows this enlarged kidneys.
Yeah.
And the other one is a genetic test. It's a genetic disease. I was born with it. You pass this along to your children, 50-50, right? So if both parents had it, then it'd be 100% chance the kids get it. So as a parent, you have a 50-50 chance of passing this along to your child. And if you're the child of somebody that has it, you got a 50-50 chance of having it, right? Funny thing is, neither one of my parents have ever had any kidney problems.
That's crazy.
And this is a disease that starts showing up in different ways in your 20s. It typically starts showing up. I've been on blood pressure medicine since 25 years old because of it, but I didn't know that was why until, you know, I got diagnosed with this at 38.
But you started having like high blood pressure issues and stuff.
I had started having high blood pressure in my mid-20s, and I was a smoker, and you know, figured that's a contributing factor or whatever.
Oh yeah,
but still at 25, come on.
Yeah. Of course, you're 25 and you're like, fuck, I'll be fine.
Right. So yeah, I took my pills most of the time, you know, and but so anyways, you know, my parents by this time they're, you know, in their 60s, mid to late 60s even. And that's just not, you know, you read about this disease and that's not, nobody makes it to that age without knowing they have this. So my mom actually and my brother went and got tested. Nobody has it. My dad's stubborn, but I know he doesn't have it. So I was a 1 in 10,000 shot at developing this on my own. And that's what happened. I mutated it and was born with it on my own, and it's just something in my genes that
it didn't come from like a grandparent or something.
It cannot skip generations.
Okay.
So like if you have it and your kid doesn't get it, you don't need to worry about your grandkid.
That's good.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
unless it's a case like yours.
Well, unless they get it organically like I did. So, you know, I found out about this disease while my daughter was pregnant with my grandson. So here I don't know if my daughter's got it, and she's 20 years old at the time, when she was pregnant with Grayson. And I don't know if she's got it. It wouldn't even be showing up yet. Even an ultrasound at 20 years old is, you don't have it yet, but you might still have it.
Right. Kind of hard to detect.
Right. So what they see in the ultrasound is you get hundreds or even thousands of cysts in your kidneys. And that's what the word polycystic means, is mini cysts. So, she even while she was pregnant, she went in and said, hey, I need to be checked for this. And she's still to this day has no signs.
Good.
So her 50-50 shot turned out in her favor. It looks like, we think, for now,
Yeah.
Which is, she's 28 years old, and the probability of her having it's starting to look pretty low. And because we're looking, it
Does she do like regular testing or anything like that?
No. I mean, she just
self-monitoring.
She got the ultrasounds done, and then of course you've got to pay attention to any other symptoms, and she's just never had anything that shows up. So I get diagnosed with this stuff, and then the problems that it caused me started getting a lot worse, and it started to get to the point where it was mostly bad in the summer. And like the last 2 summers I was in California, I spent those 2 summers on disability. The heat catches up to me, and then you're fucked for like a week.
Yeah.
And it gets to the point where you can't even go check the mail. So that happened, and then my daughter couldn't afford to live on her own in California at the time. Informed us that she was moving to Arizona with her boyfriend, and Arizona is not where I'm going, And I hadn't even really had any thoughts of leaving California. I just knew that it was fucked, Yeah. Every time you turn around, it's just really, if you get a raise at work, you go home and find out that the electric company raised the rates just about that much.
Yeah. Well, if they're not shutting your power off, with a blackout or some fucking bullshit.
Right. Then there was all that too.
Telling you that by 2025 you have to buy an electric car, but you can't charge it at night because there's not enough power to go around.
Yeah. And no more generators, but hey, we're shutting your power off.
Yeah, no more generators because they emit too much CO2 and NOx emissions and
right. Which is all well and good, but how's the guy supposed to survive right now?
So fucking dumb.
So anyways, at that point, we had just got back from a vacation where we took a drive for 2,500 miles or so through California, Washington, Oregon, North Idaho, Montana. Hit all the national parks, Yellowstone, and then back to California. It was a 2-week trip, and we had been back from that for maybe a month or so when Brianna told us she wanted to move to Arizona. Which was really sad because our grandson at that point was 2 years old, and he had lived with us in our house since he was born. And so we were kind of feeling a loss of that. I was grandbaby's daddy's not in the picture, and I was the male figure.
Yeah.
And they're going to move to Arizona, and man, so we decided that we weren't going to stay in California either, and we got thinking about places we'd been, and Sandpoint, Idaho stuck out like a lot because it's beautiful there. So I started doing some research and looking at like the job market and different things, and found out that there's not a whole lot going on in Sandpoint unless you are in like the blue cheese dressing business.
Oh yeah, Hidden Valley.
Yeah.
Yes. Sandpoint, it's really just kind of like an artsy fartsy town kind of too.
Yeah.
And
there's a lot of the funny thing is it's almost exactly like where we came from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would imagine. Yeah.
So then I got looking at Coeur d'Alene, which we hadn't really even spent any time in Coeur d'Alene. We kind of just drove through here on that trip. So I looked at Coeur d'Alene, bigger town, job market, Spokane's right next door. And the job market looked screaming good compared to what I was dealing with down there.
Yeah.
And then
at the time anyway.
Yeah. And so Christy looks at it, jobs for her. And yeah, there's this kind of a big hub for the hospital, Kootenai Health, and other satellite offices and things. There's a lot of opportunity there for her. So it took us about 7 or 8 months, and we made the leap. We did it. We moved. We spent every penny we had to get here.
All the cash that you had saved up and everything?
Yeah. Total moving costs, like, we rented a house here when we first got here, but, putting the deposit down on the rent in the first month and everything, and then the moving costs and everything all added up to like $8,000. And it made us broke, to where we didn't have it. But we walked in the door here with jobs that paid more than we made in California. The biggest misconception I can say about that Californians even have about leaving, or that people outside of California have about somebody that came from there, is, well, the people here generally think that you came here with a bunch of equity from your house or something. You sold your $1 million 2-bedroom house and moved here, and you can buy a mansion for that at the time. And for us, that's not the way it was. And then, there's the Californians think, well, I can't leave California or I'm going to take a big pay cut because, you get a premium for working in California. It's absolutely not true.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you also have to look at cost of living.
That too. Yeah. There's that.
When it costs $2,000 down there in Orange County to register your fucking car for a year, versus the $70, for 2 years here or whatever it is. I mean, there's a huge difference.
The difference on those things is huge, and it's on everything. Things you wouldn't even think about. We changed our address with our car insurance company. Just same coverage, same cars. Just changed our address, cut in half. Cut in almost half. We went from like $125 a month down to $75.
Just because you changed some numbers on a piece of paper.
Just because we changed our address. Some of the other, the electric bill we were paying. Our deal with our daughter when we lived there, and she was living with us as an adult. Our deal was, she had, as a teenager, she had bad habits of leaving things on.
Oh, yeah.
Being wasteful.
Yeah.
So when she kind of moved back in with us and was having a baby and everything, my deal was, I don't want you to pay rent. I'm going to let you pay the electric bill. So.
Sucker.
And that was like $300 to $500 a month.
Oh, yeah.
Even when she was paying it herself and not being as wasteful.
Well, yeah, considering they don't have any power down there, it's all fucking premium.
Well, it all comes from here. But
well, it comes from the Hoover Dam, a lot of it.
Well, in southern, but Northern California, there's
same with your water.
This line that comes through this area here from Montana and drives right through Coeur d'Alene, the big line here.
Yeah,
that goes right to California.
Yeah,
Northern California. But
it's so crazy how a place that has no water and no power,
right?
Like everything down there, people don't realize is outsourced from almost fucking everywhere else.
Right. And see, we come from a place where, in the foothills there in Northern California, our yearly rainfall is 3 times what Seattle's is.
Oh, down where you came from?
Yeah. 54 inches a year.
Holy shit.
Seattle's is 21. So you're talking almost triple.
Yeah.
What Seattle's is. Sacramento gets like 17 inches a year.
It's already dreary and rainy and shitty in Seattle anyway. It's like fucking Mordor. You're telling me it's 3 times that where you came from?
Yeah, so Seattle gets all their rain, like, just a drop in the bucket each day. It's just a drizzle, that's constant. Where we come from, you get these storms that just dump rain for 3 days. And even 50 miles away in Sacramento, they would get 1 day of rain, and we'd get 3. And raining twice as hard. Just from being down in the valley in Sacramento versus going up into the hills where these storms come in from the coast and they crash into these big tall mountains. Yeah. Even the mountains here aren't shit compared to the Sierras. Sierras are massive.
Yeah, Sierras are huge.
And so these storms come in from the coast and they run into these mountains and just drop everything until they're done. Until there's nothing left in them. And then they scoot on out over Nevada, which is absolutely dry as hell, So the rain shadow from the Sierras makes Nevada dry. But the part of Northern California that I was in is just absolutely drenched in water. And here we are, we're paying like through the nose for water because we happen to live in the same state as people in San Diego.
Yeah.
San Diego's 550 miles away.
Yeah, anywhere down in LA County.
Right.
They literally get all their water from the same river that the Hoover Dam.
So, but there's a
up.
California aqueduct runs from Northern California to Southern.
Yeah.
And takes all the water, So here we are in Northern California, and we get to pay, copious amounts of money for water, and it's illegal to collect your own
collect rainwater. Yeah, of course it is.
Right,
because they got to make their fucking dollar.
Mm-hmm.
And they always have some stupid excuses about, oh well, how is it so bad for your health and blah blah blah, and you could get sick. Well, then let me fucking get sick. That's my choice.
Yeah, I think that was probably an old law that came from some kind of water rights thing, and if you collect too much water, you're robbing the guy downstream from you.
Isn't that what that movie Chinatown is all about?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it is. I think it's Jack Nicholson, Chinatown, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that it's like an old noir, type of movie, and it's just a bunch of shady shit about water rights and something like that.
Yeah.
How they used to do shit back then.
There's just they come up with creative ways to kind of just rip you off down there. Between that and taxes and gas prices and here back in the recession and that era, here I am driving 110 miles round trip every day, and gas was like $4.89 a gallon.
And this is when
like 2008, 9, 10.
Jesus.
In that era, the gas was close to $5 there, for quite a while.
Yeah, I remember it going up. I don't think it ever got that high here. But
yeah, it was probably like $3.50 here.
Yeah, something like that. And even even then, I was like, God, the gas is too fucking high.
Right. But yeah, down there, you're when I was building fire trucks, I made good money, and it was definitely worth it. But after that, I was still commuting when I was working at the place where I was building truck bodies and whatnot. I was still commuting. It was 55 miles each way. And so I was filling my car, and I had cars that did good on gas, that I didn't have like a smart car or anything, but I had a Pontiac G6 that I bought new.
Oh yeah, those are nice.
In 2006, I bought it new, and it was a V6 that got 30 plus miles a gallon. And I had a Honda Civic for a while, like a little 94 Honda Civic 5-speed that got like 40 something miles a gallon.
Yeah, just a little beater to get around.
Yeah. And then while I was doing handyman work and stuff, I had an old Caltrans, California Department of Transportation van. It was an 87 Ford Econoline 350, 1 ton with a 460 in it.
Jesus.
And, it was like an inappropriate amount of money to fill that thing up. I mean, but you had to do it to get some work.
Oh, yeah.
And I couldn't go buy a fuel efficient van.
Yeah.
Didn't have the money.
Yeah, in college I had it was an 86 E150 conversion van.
Yeah.
With a big ass giant fucking block of steel.
Right.
Yeah, and it had
it's basically the same van, really.
Yeah. Well, it had the 302 in it.
Right.
But I mean, it had dual tanks, and I remember because I was driving over the pass back and forth going to college.
Yeah.
For quite a while. I think it was the first year that I was in college.
Right.
And yeah, it was costing me almost like $400 every week or every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Just to and that wasn't even filling it all the way. That was me putting enough in it and trying to plan out okay, I'm not going to be able to go screw off.
Years without filling up.
Yeah. I'm not going to be able to go screw off. I can only put, enough in, and I can only drive back and forth to school. And I mean, thankfully my mom helped me out a lot, but
yeah. So yeah, getting here, me and the wife both got a little bump in pay, and the benefits were just like through the roof. Like, what do you mean? I mean, before I had medical insurance, but now I've got medical insurance that pays money for depending on how long I stayed in the hospital. I figured out that with the supplemental insurance that I was getting here, I would have been paid about $25,000 for being in the hospital when I had that heart attack. That would have covered all my deductibles. It would have covered my lost pay for the 90-day recovery, in conjunction with, like disability or something, which is like half your pay.
Yeah.
So this
is it like the short term?
This $25,000 would have covered, any out of pocket max for the insurance. It would have covered the other half of your pay, all that stuff, And when I came here and got my first job and my second job here, both places and everywhere Christy's worked since she's been here, all those places that just throw this packet of stuff at you when your 90 days comes up and it's time to sign up for the insurance and everything.
Yeah.
And it's all this, and where I come from, all you're going to get is maybe you get on like the cheap Kaiser plan, and that stuff is incredibly important to somebody that's got a genetic kidney disease and has had a heart attack or so, incredibly important. Now I buy my own medical insurance for literally half of what I used to pay through my employer in California for better coverage.
Yeah.
So that's another way that Idaho has benefited me is the medical insurance cost is a fraction of what it would have been there. I would hate, and I know we haven't got into that yet, but being self-employed, I would hate to think of what I would have to pay back there for just to stay alive.
Well, even just your business licensing and everything else. Like, they'd probably be robbing your ass fucking blind for all of that crap. Yeah.
It's a joke.
And then on top of having to pay for all your own insurance and the gas for your fucking vehicle to get around in it, dude.
For any of my California people that might be listening to this, it cost me $26 to get my business fully legal here. And $1 of that was to do it online.
Yeah, convenience fee.
Right.
Yeah.
The difference in that, there's no way that I can do what I'm doing now in California. There's absolutely not possible. When I started doing what I'm doing now, a lot of my California friends thought I was crazy. Sometimes I talk to somebody and I go, "Oh, did you go back to your old job yet?" "No. Why would I do that?" "Well, I just didn't know if that was going to work out or whatever." And I'm like, "No, it's working out great." They're like, I even had one buddy, "Well, could you go back to your last job if you need to?" He was concerned about me.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I probably could. And that was before I actually did for a little short stint last winter.
Yeah.
But, just people, my friends back there just kind of don't really get it. This is a boom town. I discovered it right at the right time. I got here and we rented a place for a while, got the lay of the land and figured out where we wanted to buy, and we bought it. And we bought a brand new home on property. And we were like, shit, we're kind of stretching it a little bit, but hey, this is going to be a nice place to live. We can afford it. We got everything we wanted, property and a decent house. And that's all we ever wanted in California is maybe a little bit of something to call our own,
Yeah.
Here,
but I mean, you guys came up here, spent every dime you had, like,
right. And then worked.
Right. Just to get up here and get to where you're at. Like,
right.
It wasn't easy.
No.
Not by any means.
No.
You guys busted your asses, spent every dime you had.
Yeah.
And you've been extremely patient.
Right.
And that's what a lot of people
it was kind of a second go around for us, so we kind of knew.
Yeah, like a do-over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a do-over in our 40s where we should have been in our late 20s.
Yeah. Which is not easy to do in and of itself.
Right. So anyways, we got what we wanted, and then this place just takes off. I mean, the real estate market just went apeshit, and our property value doubled.
Yeah, so did ours.
In 2 years,
Yep.
And of course, that's not real money unless you sell.
Well, yeah, but then again, if you sell, because we thought about it too. We get the stupid card in the mail from the realtor people that are like, "We have somebody interested in your home, blah blah blah," and we thought about it. Like the first couple we got, like, fuck, man.
Yeah.
But then
you look at Zillow and you're like, "Oh,
yeah."
shit.
But okay, so you get double what you paid for the place. Great. You pay it off, right? And you've got all this extra money. What are you going to do with it? Well, at this point now, that's barely enough for a decent down payment on another
you have
place.
to leave.
Yeah, you would have to leave and move out of state to somewhere cheaper for it to even be worthwhile.
And any place that's cheaper in this country right now is not somewhere you want to live.
Yeah, no.
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 You're talking like Alabama or something.
Yeah. Now, the only way we thought it would even be like worth it is like if our kid was, old enough and out of the house and ready to
Right.
leave the coop, and we could just sell and buy a truck and a trailer, and go and do the thing that we want to do and like get just a small piece of property. That's the
Right.
only way it would be worthwhile.
Yeah.
And it's just, we're not at that point.
Yeah. And then, so after a little while of being in the new house and everything, and we've kind of just all of a sudden we've got everything going the way we want it to go. And, I've still got this health issue. And luckily, everywhere that I've worked since this all came down, the truck body place in California, they were super understanding with, my initial recovery period and everything when I had the heart attack in 2013. They were super understanding and made accommodations for me with my new issues. And, I stayed there until I left California, and then I got here, and the two jobs that I took here, both were the same way. And I did that by walking in the door and just explaining my situation.
Yeah. And just being honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And being straight up about it. Like, look, even Ground Force, they have an attendance policy that's points based and everything. And I got that to be waived for me by explaining myself. And then, I had to do the paperwork with the doctor and kind of just get everything on the books about all that stuff. But there's still this thing in the back of your head, like, what if there's a management change? What if in the future there's a management change and that's not going to be okay with somebody? Or, I'm kind of living on the edge of, I'm living on the idea that my needs are being seen by somebody else that's not maybe, I don't know how to explain it, but it's just hard to be in that situation, even though everything's going fine, so I started wanting to look at ways to be in control of my own schedule and my own time and my own health. The problem with this kidney disease is sometimes I can get a little bit behind it, and it starts to catch up to me, and I need rest.
Yeah.
I need to lay low for sometimes days,
Yeah. Well, and walking around on a concrete floor and handling a bunch of heavy shit all the time.
Bending over is a big one.
Yeah.
A big thing that I was having a problem with in California when I was doing a lot of welding and stuff on these truck bodies was crawling up underneath the truck and holding my body in a position the whole time I make a weld. And that became agonizing, which was another reason to kind of leave California so I could find a different job, something that's a little more physically in my realm. I'm okay. Standing, sitting, I'm fine. But, when it comes to bending and crouching and things like that, I can literally burst these cysts just by bending over to pick something up.
Yeah.
One of the things the doctor told me in the beginning while this is, don't load the dishwasher, something. And of course the wife was like, oh, they didn't say that. But they did.
Of course they would tell you not to do that.
It's just that simple repeated bending.
Yeah.
That seems so simple to other people that it's kind of a big deal to me.
Yeah. Stupid shit that everybody takes for granted.
Right.
Yeah.
But I've learned how to live with what I got, and I don't let it hold me back. And I try to just leave it alone, kind of leave it where it is and kick it around a little bit every now and then and get pissed off at it, but then, move on with my life.
Well, in a way though, even though in some way you may have been or felt kind of forced to move out of working for somebody else,
right,
and figure out how to do something on your own.
Right.
I mean, it kind of ended up being the best thing you could have ever done.
It did. For anybody that doesn't know me, I bought this property, and along with it, I went and got a tractor to be able to take care of it and remove snow and do the projects and that stuff. So I went and bought a John Deere tractor, And
You want to do a plug?
what's that?
You want to do a plug? Go ahead. What's your business name?
Chad's Tractor Service.
Chad's Tractor Service.
So yeah,
Find him on Facebook.
I spent a little bit of time gathering some equipment. I bought a new truck. I bought not a new truck, but a new to me truck, diesel truck that could pull a tractor around.
I love your truck.
And
it's a sexy fucking truck.
Right?
It is.
So I mean,
it's a GMC, but it's a fucking sexy truck.
That's a gay man Chevrolet. So yeah, went and got a truck and started kind of putting things together. Got a trailer and started doing some advertising on Facebook and whatnot. And I figured, if I could just stay busy for like 12 hours a week, then that pretty much makes up for what I was doing before, money wise. So I had a pretty small pair of shoes to fill as far as how much money I needed to make and how much I had to work to get there.
When Facebook marketing really isn't that expensive.
It's really cheap.
Yeah, and
I hate Facebook with a passion.
Right.
But they bring me a lot of work.
Yeah.
For almost no money.
Yeah, doing ads are cheap as fuck. And when you look at the engagement and the numbers and stuff that it gives you, like the Meta Business Suite and all that, it's actually a pretty sweet deal.
This year I stopped advertising on May 4th. And I took a long summer vacation, but I stayed busy without doing any advertising until the snow flew.
Yeah,
which was the goal.
But I imagine you can do advertising like at maybe a couple different points in the year for different things.
Right.
You're either advertising in spring for summer work and then advertising in fall for winter work.
So what I usually do is
but then people are just like writing your number down and like, oh, I'll need to call him later.
Yeah, I advertise when spring hits. I'll start advertising a couple weeks ahead of time when we're in like mud season and I don't really want to mess with it yet, but I'll start getting those irons in the fire.
Yeah.
And then when my schedule gets pushed up to about a month or 6 weeks, I'll stop the advertising. At that point, it starts to get hard to make promises to people like, oh yeah, I'm going to be here on this day. That's a month and a half out.
Yeah.
And then have everything work out in my schedule for that month and a half. Keep in mind, there's times I need to just stop.
Exactly.
For my purposes, my health reasons. So
leaving yourself some buffer to be able to tell clients like, hey, I'm going to need to push this back. And
once I get out to 4 to 6 weeks or so worth of work that's booked in the books, and I leave gaps in there, and things like that to be able to catch up on a job or something. But I cut the advertising off, and then when I get down to where I've got about 2 weeks left of work, I turn it back on and advertise some more. So this year it worked out to where I got my schedule far out enough to where I had enough work. This happened on May 4th. May 4th, that's when I cut it off. And I had enough work to last me till the 4th of July, which is when I wanted to leave on a vacation with the travel trailer, and go do some stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And so I booked up until 4th of July, and then I kept getting some calls like from people with some big jobs and stuff. A couple of guys, one guy wanted me to clear 5 acres for a $1.3 million home build on his 5 acres. He wants it parked out, he says,
Oh, yeah, like separating it out into plots and stuff? Or
no, it's just he's going to build one home on 5 acres.
Oh, gotcha.
But he wants his land to look like a freaking park. And I'm like, hey, I'm your guy, So, I told him it's going to have to be September. I'm going to be gone for a couple months, and I'll be back in September, and we'll do it then. And then I get another call from a guy that's got 2 pieces of property. One up in Trestle Creek and one in Bayview. And he wants, this and that done and some like roads put in. I put in roads, I dug and I rent machinery. My tractor is not the only thing I use.
Right.
Whenever I need anything else, I go rent it. And
which is really the way to do it if you're a small, independent business. Yeah,
I don't want to have, some of these like a mini excavator can be $1,500 a month.
Right.
And of course it costs me that much to rent it for a week, but I don't need it every month. Right. So, and I sure don't want to be making that payment in January when I'm not doing anything with it.
Well, and especially if shit gets slow, you know, you're not having to worry about how the hell you're going to pay for all this equipment.
Yeah, and then,
where to hide it so they can't come repo it.
Right. And if shit does get slow, then you can't even sell the shit because nobody else has got any work.
Yeah, so they're not going to fucking buy it.
So yeah, I mean, I've got my tractor, and then I regularly rent other equipment. I've got a few friends that organically started as friends, and some of them that started as customers that help me out with things. I've got a guy that just a good friend of mine that bought an excavator earlier this year, and when I can, I pass him some work, you know. And I don't really pass too much work along to other people, because if it takes out of my schedule, I can't really just give it away.
Right.
But if I've got so much going on where I can split it with somebody, you know, and I pay people that help me a lot of money. I charge a lot of money, and the customers that I have are getting a good deal at that, at what I'm charging them. They're very happy to pay it. And I'm very happy to show up when I tell them I'm going to show up and do what I said I was going to do. And they're happy. And that's all it takes. You know, I've had so many customers say, man, you're the first guy that even showed up to look at this. You know, and I'm like, well, the other guys are losing out, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, so I've got a guy that's got an excavator. I've got another guy that's got a dump trailer that, you know, I pay him to haul stuff for me. I've got another guy that, actually I've got two of those. One's got a big old gooseneck thing that hauls 1 million pounds or whatever. And, you know, it's basically almost like having a dump truck. And, you know, I've had a few times where, you know, I get customers that call me up and they have their own tractor, and they call me up, hey, can you come out and look at my project? Because I think I've just gotten as far as I can go on it. And I go out and look at it and I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is, and then I end up kind of giving the guy tractor lessons and stuff, you know, and that's fine with me. I don't care. It doesn't bother me one bit. And then, you know, like,
but you're building good relationships, not only with your customers, but with other people that you can now, maybe not feed work to, but that can come help you. They'll make a little bit of money. You can do a slightly bigger job than you would be able to on your own.
Yeah, and like that particular guy, he's a retired cop.
Team up, you know,
he's a retired motorcycle cop from Huntington Beach, California, you know, and somebody I can trust.
God, you guys are just fucking multiplying like crazy.
He's somebody I can definitely trust, you know. And you know, another friend of mine, ours, and he's an ex-cop too, and he comes and helps me out. He trucks things around for me and moves dirt, you know, and shit like that for me. And you know, I try to pay these guys to where the only money I make off of them is you know, what costs me for advertising and my liability insurances and those kinds of things. And then, you know, I don't want to make a bunch of money off of them. I just need the help at that time, you know, and they end up happy because they're getting paid well, you know. I can't keep them busy all the time. I try to just keep myself busy, but sometimes it gets a little crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, the stuff that I've been doing is just anything from, like, I've had people that, you know, some lady from Coeur d'Alene that calls up and says, I got this bush in my front yard I need removed, you know, how much does that cost? Well, my 4-hour minimum is this much, and I'll come and remove your bush, no problem for that, you know. And they're happy, and you know, from
all it takes is a pair of clippers,
right? And well, I just yank them out. I got a big
with tweezers
grapple on the tractor, it's like a big claw, and I just pull it out. But
that must hurt.
You know, those are the days I like, because it took me a half an hour to get there and a half hour to get home and 15 minutes to do the job, and I just got paid for 4 hours, you know. But it does wreck my day, so I got to get a minimum.
Right.
So, you know, everything from that kind of stuff on up to there's the one fellow I did a bunch of work for this year. He has a piece of property up Trestle Creek, on the creek, and I think he's got 15 acres, and he wanted some roads put in, and he'd had it logged, but he wanted some roads put in, and I ended up putting in I don't know how much like footage it was in roads, but it took 20 dump trucks worth of gravel to cover it, you know. And I had to literally like widen these roads into the side of the mountain, you know. Built a couple of campsites there, big wide area big enough to be able to turn a fifth wheel around or something, you know, in 2 different spots down by the creek, and then a build site up in the middle of the property where he's going to be putting a building on it and everything, you know. He was having a well put in and everything, and all this dirt work done. And he couldn't find anybody to do it, you know. So here I am, just some guy with a tractor, but I can get what I need to make these things happen, and it's just not that hard, you know. I set up a rental and I get it out there and do the work, you know. Sometimes I get somebody to help me, sometimes I don't, and the rest is, you know, history, I guess. I'm going to keep doing this as long as I can. I only work 7 or 8 months out of the year. And like this year, we took a big long road trip. We drove from here through Utah, Arizona, or not Arizona, but Utah, Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, bunch of stuff. Went to a bunch of places in southern Idaho and that we'd never been to. My family's actually from southern Idaho. I've got family that goes back in southern Idaho to before it was a state.
Damn.
Yeah.
When Idaho hasn't even actually been a state that long.
1890.
Yeah.
But yeah, the town of Ryrie, Idaho, just outside of Idaho Falls, was settled by my great, I don't know how many greats, but, you know, they were Mormons from from Utah, you know, and they got sent northward into Idaho and Idaho wasn't even Idaho yet, you know, to settle the town of Ryrie, Idaho. And my grandmother grew up there, and they moved to California in the 60s. My mom was a teenager, and I never stepped foot in the state till I was 40 years old, and it's been 5 years now, and man, what a big change. Here's how big of a change it is, okay? To have a place to live in California, it's expensive, and it's expensive here too, just to have a place to live, you know, a house or an apartment or whatever it is.
It's expensive just to be alive anymore these days.
Right. So, I mean, here it's gotten to the point now, 5 years in for me, that it's like almost the same as what it was. It pretty much is the same as what it was when we left there. I don't know what it's like there now. I just don't even pay any attention. That's all in the rearview mirror, big time. But it's gotten pretty much here for housing what it was when we left there. And we did not live in an expensive part of California at all. I'm not familiar with, I'm a little bit familiar with like what things would cost down in San Francisco or LA or something. You know, people rent studio apartments for $5,000 a month or something like that. I never was involved in any of that, but
yeah, well, like I brought up earlier, how much it costs to register a rig down there, and that's from a guy that I know that came up from Orange County, and that's one of the reasons why he left. Same thing. That's not
a joke either.
Yeah, he packed up all his shit that he had, which is not much, and he came up with his car and a U-Haul trailer, a little tiny one.
Yeah.
And he left because he was like, it's like $2,000 to register my car every year. I was like,
so yeah, that's where the biggest differences are.
It's like, how the fuck does anybody afford that?
That's where the biggest differences are, is stuff like that. You know, car registrations here are like $65.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you got a Lamborghini or what. Down there, you know, between your water and your electric and your homeowner's insurance and your property taxes and all these different things, it just adds up to so much. I mean, we did some math when we got here, and we figured out, you know, we let it marinate for about a year of being here, of how much, so we could figure out how much we pay for things here, you know.
Kind of do like a comparison.
Yeah. And this might be hard to believe, but the difference in all of our monthlies between all those things I just mentioned and other things, just the difference makes my mortgage payment every month. I'm shit you not.
I believe it, man. Yeah.
Living here is like living in California with a free house. Seriously. You know, when you're talking about a $400 electric bill versus a $110 electric bill, that's a chunk right there. When you're talking about your car insurance went down $50, that's significant. $600 a year. When you're talking about the gas prices, the fact that I don't have to live 55 miles away from my job, you just keep going. The medical insurance, the food. If food is cheaper here, it depends on what you buy.
Yeah.
Meat's cheaper here. Milk's cheaper here. Eggs, bacon, cheaper here. When I first got here, I could find a dozen eggs for 88 cents. You could not find a dozen eggs for less than $4 down there. They made a law, cage-free stuff.
Of course they did. Yeah.
So yeah, you just couldn't even get any eggs, for a reasonable amount of money. And you add up all those things, and now you're talking, and you're into a couple $1,000s a month, and that's enough to make a mortgage payment on a pretty nice place.
Yeah. I don't understand why anyone still lives down there.
38 million of them.
Yeah, I don't get it. Why?
They don't know. Even people in my own family are like, oh, it's too cold, or
I imagine if that's all you ever know, sure.
Yeah.
Well, there's just a huge difference in everything, especially again, media.
Right.
Oh
yeah, the news down there.
Oh yeah. So
you can see it here if you just watch the Spokane news, you see the same stuff.
But it's not as often. Like it pops up here and there, and it's like a quick 60-second spot, and then it's gone. But
right.
It was either last year or the year before, my wife's grandmother passed away.
Yeah.
And like her and her brother, they went down there to go to the funeral, and they stayed in a hotel, and they said that all day, every local channel with the news, all they talked about the entire time was how COVID was so bad and we're all going to die and everyone needs to just stay in your house and don't go anywhere, don't do anything, don't talk to anyone, wear your mask, get the jab.
Right.
And then, so they were down there for like a week or two. They come home, and at one point we had the news on for some reason. I'm not really sure why. We don't watch TV mostly, but she was just like, this is so weird after being down there and being bombarded with it for 2 weeks. And then over here, all it is no, cat stuck in a tree, and
Just I wasn't here. I was here for COVID, not there.
Yeah.
So, but I did visit down there during COVID a couple of times, and it was just weird being required to wear the mask everywhere you go. Here it's like doctor's office, Yeah,
it was like a handful of places,
right.
And even the places that did say they required it, if you walked in without one, they'd usually leave you the fuck alone.
Yeah. And the funny thing is all the people that I know, not everybody, but a lot of people that I know from down there were like, oh, you're just being irresponsible up there in Idaho, You're just God, don't you know there's a cold going around? You can get that.
Sure do.
And up here, people were just kind of like, you know what? We did our social distancing thing. The doctor actually put me out of work for 10 weeks. It was.
Yeah.
Doctor put me out of work for 10 weeks. Wouldn't sign me off to go back to work until we got to stage 2 or 3 or whatever it was. My wife got furloughed or whatever you want to call it for 8 of those weeks, I believe. So here we are. I was out for 10 weeks. She was out for 8 of them, and we were home alone. And I'm not going to tell all the details, but we didn't even have one fight in that 10 weeks or 8 weeks. And I love my wife so much. She really to actually spend that much time locked up in the house
with you.
And then, and like this year we did 45 days in the RV, and in a box, nice box, but it's still a box.
Yeah.
We didn't have any problems. We left the house with a like 7-month-old lab puppy, to go live in a box, and we came back with this amazing dog. We got along the whole time. The dog got trained like you wouldn't believe. But going back to COVID and spending that time alone with the wife and not having to go to work every day or have any, and there was financial worries about that. We didn't, either one of us, see a dime of unemployment that whole time. Luckily, we had enough to keep our bills covered and going through, and we eventually got paid from unemployment, but that was after we were back to work, before we even got our first check. from unemployment. Luckily, we were able to make it through that. I don't know how long it could have gone, but we made it, So, yeah, the difference between here and there with COVID is just, my mom was freaking out. She was freaking out about it. And she's not an alarmist. She's not like that. But she was, and that's how much they're pounding it into people.
Yeah.
Yeah, my whole family kind of got messed up a little bit over that. The politics, and then the COVID thing, and we used to be such a close family. There were monthly get-togethers and stuff, and that's all kind of faded away.
Yeah. Yeah, it's sad. It created a lot of division just between families.
Yeah. And it's not like they hate each other over it or anything, I don't think. It's just that it got put on hold, and now it's not a priority to get back. We're going down for Christmas to visit my mom and everybody, and there will be a family get-together for Christmas like we used to do. And that is something that's super important to me. When we first left there in 2018, that's a couple years before COVID, we went down there for every Christmas. And we went down there another couple times a year on top of that. And, we'd fly down there and people would say things like, man, you must spend a lot of money on plane tickets, And I'd tell them, look, I save enough money on my electric bill every month to fly down here. That's how much money I save on just my electric bill, by not being down there. I could fly there every month for that money. One person, at least, So, you do both of us a couple times a year, and it's not that big of a deal. So yeah, that was kind of our promise to my close family was we're still going to be here. We're still going to be part of the family. And then COVID hit, and it all just can't come for Christmas. Can't, do any of that.
Can't do shit.
Right. So yeah, there was a couple years there went by. We didn't really see. I'm gonna be seeing one of my aunts. I've got a couple of aunts that are just very close my whole life. One of my aunts, I lived in her house for a time when I was a teenager. Things were weird then, but yeah, lived with my aunt for half a year or something, and so all very close. My mom and her two sisters. And I'm going to see one of my aunts at Christmas this year that I haven't seen since before COVID started. And she, in the meantime, has lost her husband. And I never got to say goodbye to him or anything, It was not COVID related or anything, the loss of the husband. But, he's no longer with us. And so, going back, there's going to be a family get together, but it's not going to be the same. Somebody died, and it would have been nice to see him a couple more times.
Yeah, it's always weird. It's always weird when you have a family get together and somebody's missing.
Yeah. I lost an uncle, not that same uncle, but that was my aunt's husband. But, he's been my uncle my whole life. And, that was my aunt's husband, but my real uncle, my mom's brother, we lost him about 2016-ish or something like that. I can't remember the dates of things like that. I deal with them and then I put them away, But about 2016 or so, we lost my Uncle Dennis. He was a musician. He actually wrote some songs for Merle Haggard and stuff, back in the day.
Nice.
And he was like, way cool dude when I was growing up. He'd take me around and to all these different musicians' places and clubs and stuff during the day when they're not open.
Imagine you probably had a little bit of influence on your autophilia.
Somewhat, yeah, I think so. Is
that even a word, autophilia?
Audiophilia.
Yeah.
And that's just the audiophilia thing. It's something I've always been interested in, but it's kind of the flavor. I bounce from hobby to hobby, different things. And over the years, it's been fishing is a big one. I got into, I've fished all my life, but I got into trophy fishing for trophy brown trout. And it became my hobby. I got a little 12-foot boat, that'll go in any lake. And if you're hunting trophy brown trout, you can't go fish where everybody else is fishing. you got to fish somewhere that's hard to get to. In a time of year maybe when nobody wants to be out on the water, you know. I've sat out on lakes fishing with 6 inches of snow in my boat, little 12 foot metal boat with a 15 horse motor on it, you know, and electric downrigger and Raytheon or Raymarine fish finder and everything, you know, all the good stuff on a 12 foot little boat.
When it's fucking snowing?
Oh yeah.
Fuck
in the middle of the night, you know, or whatever, you know. And
you'd have to put a lot of whiskey in me to even consider that.
Yeah, I actually went and bought GPS for the boat one time because I almost died in the night, you know. I had driven.
Yeah, I could see how that would probably be a good thing to have.
I had driven to this lake that I went to often, and I knew it well. It could be a very dangerous lake. The lake itself it's called Hellhole Reservoir, and it's literally a bathtub. It's very deep, and it's the walls on this lake, the sides of the shores of this lake are just granite walls,
like cliffs.
Yeah, hundreds of feet above you and hundreds of feet below you under the water. You could be in 300 feet of water while your rod tip is scraping the shore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So a lot of times when you're driving blind in a boat, you use the depth as an indicator of, you know, being safe or not. You know, I'm at 300 feet of water, I can haul ass, or I can move, you know, along.
If you're 20 feet of water, you're probably getting close to the shore.
Yeah, like you see, bottom's coming up, we're getting close to shore.
Yeah.
So, you know, not really big on being out on the boat at night or anything, but was never really done on purpose. But sometimes you end up out there in the dark because you want to get to a certain place before daybreak. So what happened on this particular trip was I was meeting someone there, and so I got to camp. This was in November. It was around Thanksgiving time, so it was cold, and I got to camp after dark. No cell reception for 50 miles in California. Not shitting you.
That's hard to do.
Yeah, no cell reception for 50 miles. And back then, you know, our phones weren't so smart. So if they didn't have signal, they didn't know what time it was. So usually...
So you're talking about like a Cricket wireless flip phone or something?
No, I'm talking like a flip phone, yeah, before we all had smartphones and stuff. So you would have to like set an alarm on your phone and make sure it doesn't turn off so it can keep the time and to get up in the morning kind of thing. And I would get up before daybreak, you know, 4 or 5, something in the morning, and get my boat launched and go, you know, be in it and ready to fish when first light hits. So I got up there this night and, you know, it was a little snowy and went to bed. But I had forgotten, like, I left my phone off or it died or something like that. And so I got there and I had no time on my phone. So I figured, well, I'll just wake up. First light I see, I'm getting up, you know. So I woke up the next morning, or I woke up in the middle of the night, thought it was the next morning. It was just a break in the clouds and a full moon or something, you know.
Yeah.
So I got up, went and launched my boat, and I drove it to the other end of the lake where the people I was meeting were supposed to be camped. They were there before me, and you can only get to the other end of the lake by boat, and they were supposed to be out there camping. So I get in my boat and I drive the 5 miles or so across the lake to the other end, and in that time a storm had brewed, and now we're 4-foot waves in pitch black and it's snowing like hell. And I got to turn around and go back. I mean, I can't see a thing. Even if it was daytime, I don't know if I'd have been able to see anything. And yeah, 4-foot waves in a 12-foot boat's not great. And my depth finder's not telling me anything about where I am. I can tell what direction I'm going.
Especially in waves.
Yeah.
When you're moving around so much.
Right. And yeah, I mean, it was so bad that like you kind of need to move with the boat to keep it from taking a wave over the side. And so I can only tell which direction I'm going basically by which way the waves are coming from. And I'm going into them, and I've got like 4 miles to go. And it's gnarly. I'm in snow bibs and all that stuff. I've got life preserver. I've got, you know, I'm not going to like just immediately die. But by the time I got back to my truck, it was probably 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'd mistakenly thought it was close to daybreak when I got up, probably at 1 o'clock or something, But yeah, I never went back out in the dark without GPS after that, and I had a lot of times where, bad shit could have happened real quick, being out fishing and stuff, but hey, man, that's the game you got to play to catch giant brown trout. Brown trout are so hard to catch that if you're fishing in a lake that has 10 brown trout per rainbow trout, you'll still catch 10 times as many rainbow trout as you do browns. That's how much more difficult they are to catch.
They just like how they feed, or just elusive?
They have a completely different way of feeding. A rainbow trout's kind of an opportunistic feeder.
Yeah.
Sees something that looks like what it's used to seeing, it'll go ahead and take it. A brown trout's a predator. If you want to fish for big brown trout, you've got to use something that looks like the fish that everybody else are catching, because that's what they eat. These like planted rainbows they throw in the lake, they're 10, 12 inches long. You need to imitate that, because these brown trout, they'll line up 30, 40 feet down on the bottom of the lake, right where that stocking truck dumps those things. You know what I mean? The best key way to find these big brown trout is to find a lake that has brown trout in it, number one, and number two, has kokanee in it. They call them bluebacks here or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's like if those two things exist in the same body of water, you're going to get big browns, trophy size, 10 pounds and above.
Yeah, kokanee are the little ones, aren't they?
Kokanee they're generally 10 to 12, 14 inches big, and they'll feed on the younger ones. So yeah, so when you're
their bones are pretty small, aren't they?
Yeah. So when you're fishing for the big browns like that, you would use a lure that's like 6 inches long and looks like a Rapala type of thing.
Yeah.
But looks the colors of a kokanee, and then you find the kokanee schools. And you'll see them on your fish finder. You can see these schools of smaller fish, and then down below them there might be 3 or 4 big arches that represent larger fish down there lurking below them, picking off like lions and gazelles and stuff, picking off the weak. And then you put something down there that looks like the weak,
Especially if you know how to flick it. Make it look like an injured fish.
This is all trolling. This is all trolling with downriggers.
Okay.
Yeah. Unless it's cold. If the water's below 55, then you do that on top. And yes, you can give it a little jerk here and there, and bam, fish on.
Hey, let's go take a pee real quick.
Yeah, let's do it.
Good pee.
I think this might have been too low for a while. I was talking over it, kind of.
Yeah, moving around. You can talk over it. Like, it's kind of like a...
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's weird how these mics pick up. Like if you're right in front of it, it's usually best. But I find if you're kind of over the top of it, it's a little bit better. I don't know. Whatever works, man.
How's that sound right there?
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
So I'm back from peeing.
Everything came out great. So yeah, like you mentioned, we touched on the little RV trip that me and the wife took this summer. It was kind of a bucket list thing to do for us. We love to. I'm into wildlife photography. That's another one of my hobbies.
Oh yeah, you take some of the best fucking pictures. And I don't know how you find all these damn animals, because anytime I drive around in the truck and I'm like, and I take the camera with me and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go see if I can find like some eagles or, a mountain goat or something. I don't see fucking shit.
It's time and place, man. It's like hunting, I tell people all the time I hunt with a Canon, 600 millimeter Canon. But, that kind of is one of the things that inspired this trip too, is my love for wildlife photography. And the reason I love wildlife photography is the places it takes me, that travel aspect of it. It's one thing, you can go to Yellowstone, and if you're really into watching water boil, there's a lot of stuff for you. But if you're into wildlife photography, it kind of opens up another, and trust me, there's hundreds or thousands of people in that park at any given moment that are doing the same thing.
Well, apparently you can find severed legs there now too.
I haven't heard about that.
Yeah, there was I think it was a ranger found the remains of a foot, like in a shoe, and they were like, holy shit, what the fuck happened here? Like, is somebody stuck down in this it was one of the
I did see that in the water in the
it was one of the
hot spring
one of the hot springs, one of the hot pools, and they were trying to figure out like what the hell happened. And I need to read more about it and like look it up, but apparently they found whoever it belonged to, and I think he's still alive.
Oh my god. He just didn't tell anybody.
Yeah,
my foot's in there.
Yeah, there's something that, you know, on my scrolling throughs of my news feed taking a shit, I've managed to find that and was reading a little bit about it, but the last thing I saw was just a headline saying that they had found who it was, but I didn't have time to look at the rest of it. I need to look it up.
Right.
But yeah, I was like, no shit. Like, is the guy still alive? Is he just like, oh, I lost my foot. Fuck it.
Yeah, it sounds like some foul play or something for sure. But or somebody just disappeared, you know. But anyways, yeah. So, you know, finding a subject for wildlife photography is probably the hardest part. And then, you know, you hope to find them in the right light. You hope to find them in the right part of the day. You hope to find them in the right place where there's, I mean, it's one thing to take a picture of, say, a bear's ass, you know, he's feeding in the woods and all you can do is take a picture of his ass. So that happens like 2/3 of the time. You find an animal and you don't even get a picture out of it that's worth sharing or making anything more of it, you know? So yeah, I have thousands and thousands of pictures of the ass end of things that just aren't an interesting picture, you know?
Well, yeah, but you could start a website where you could like Photoshop like G-strings and shit on these animals. And then if you do some GIF work, make them like twerking and shit, and you just do, you know, twerks in nature. Right. That's what you call it.
Yeah. Twerking in nature.
Twerking in nature. And then that could be your, you know, just your artistic vision for all of these useless photos.
Right.
And start just blowing up Instagram.
And I got plenty of them. There's for every picture that I let people see, there's probably 500 to 1,000 that I've taken, you know. There are animals that I found, you know, that I really wanted to be something, you know, but it takes a perfect storm. You know, you find an animal, and if you're in a national park, there's going to be like a bunch of people stopping. I mean, all you have to do is like pull over and get out of the truck with a camera like the one I have, a big long, you know, lens and everything, and you're going to have every vehicle that passes by and sees that is going to stop and want to know what you're looking at.
Oh yeah, fucking looky-loos.
Right, and then you know you limited on amount of time you're going to get before either the animal wanders off because he's spooked, and you don't want to do that. You don't want to harass the wildlife, you know.
Right.
You know, animals get spooked. You got every tourist in the world standing there with their phone and.
Yeah, that pisses me off so much about Yellowstone and shit.
Yeah.
Just stupid people that get out of their cars and they go and they're trying to like touch a moose or something.
Yeah.
Like not only is
big thing with the bison.
Yeah, not only is that dangerous to you and you're a fucking moron, but you're in their house and you're screwing with them. And
right. And like for instance, while we were on our trip, we were in Yellowstone at one point, and Yellowstone wasn't even one of our destinations. We go there a couple times a year anyway, so it wasn't really on the radar for this trip, but we did end up
been there, done that.
Yeah, we did end up there twice. And one time I found a black bear that was, you know, kind of wandering through and foraging on berries and stuff, and found this black bear, and there was just people everywhere. And you know, I have an advantage with my equipment that I can get pretty close from pretty far away with the pictures. And it's even freaked my mom out a few times. I was like, no big deal, Mom. The cubs were behind me, and I was taking a picture of Mom, and you know, she freaks out, and I'm like, Mom, I'm messing with you, you know. And but anyway, so there's like 100 people around, and I'm taking pictures of this black bear, and it was getting dark, and it was to the limits of where I could even take a picture with a long lens like that. You lose light. by using that type of lens, you're putting yourself automatically at a disadvantage by how much light you have.
Right.
So, it's not dark out or anything, but it's starting to get there. It's dusk, and it's to the point where between the shutter speed being too slow to get a still photo and not letting enough light in through your aperture and everything like that, and then with a long lens on top of it, it's pretty much too dark to take pictures, and I'm getting frustrated. And damn it, bear pictures can be really nice in the right place. And there's all these people around, and all of a sudden some guy pulls up in a vehicle, and I'm standing right next to the road, and he starts yelling at everybody to like quit harassing that bear. This guy's yelling out the passenger.
Just some random guy.
Yeah, yelling out the passenger window of a vehicle to for everybody to stop harassing that bear. And I'm standing there. I'm about 120 yards away from the bear, and I can take a picture at that distance, like I'm standing from me to you.
Right.
8 feet away. So I'm not like trying to get any closer to this bear or anything. But this guy pulls up, starts yelling, and all your foreign tourists and everything start backing up, and they're like, "Oh, we gotta get away from the bear." And I've done this a lot, and I know when I'm in danger with the bear, and I know a lot about that kind of stuff, animal behavior and stuff. And,
when is it time to get back in the car?
Right. And and I always know where my car is, and that kind of stuff in that kind of situation. But so this guy starts yelling, but I didn't move. I just kept doing what I was doing. And then this guy targeted me. He's like, "Yeah, you in the gray shirt, you're too close to that bear," and all that stuff. And I'm trying to get these last couple of pictures of the evening, and I'm turning around, and he's like 30 feet away from me, and I'm like, shut
120 yards, that's not even a fucking touchdown throw.
So there's a law that you have to be 100 yards away from a bear.
Yeah.
In a national park. Bears, wolves, any of the predatory animals, it's 100 yards. That's the law. Non-predatory animals like elk or bison or a moose or something like that, it's like 25 yards. If you're 25 yards from a moose, you're too close.
Yeah. Especially if babies are around.
Right. And, I've taken pictures closer than that of moose or even grizzly bears and stuff. But, I'm on the road. I'm leaning over the crotch of my driver door, like where the mirror is, with the door open. And I've got my camera set in that crotch of the door. And I'm taking pictures. Window up, vehicle running, and if this bear's 80 yards away and something changes, I can just get in and even drive off, That's one of my favorite ways to find an animal, is close to the road and in a situation where I can be like that. When you're on foot out in the wilderness, you got to be a lot more vigilant. Is it vigilant?
Vigilant, yeah.
Okay, a lot more vigilant about that.
Well, and just smart in general. Like the way you're doing it, you're not fucking getting out of the car and walking up the side of the hill
with a phone
and a half a pack of beef jerky in your pocket.
Right. So and it takes just a little bit of common sense and all that stuff. And then there's animal behavior. If an animal changes its behavior because you're there, you're too close.
Yeah.
So anyways, back to the story. This animal was not changing its behavior whatsoever because of me. I'm outside the legal limits of how far I'm supposed to be from this animal. And here's some guy yelling at me. And I just turn around and I look at him, and then I go back to what I'm doing. And then he targets me like, you in the gray sweatshirt, blah, 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 you need to get away from that bear. And I'm like, I turn around, I'm like, fuck you, buddy. Call the fucking Rangers.
Yeah.
If you got a beef, call the fucking Ranger. He goes, I am the Ranger. And he pulls out a fucking radio, right? And I'm like, that doesn't tell me you're a Ranger. There's people all over that place. You can't use phones there, so people have radios.
Yeah. Let me see your badge.
Right. So, yeah. And he started yelling something about how he was gonna call it in, and then they drove off, But it's just shit like that. It's like, get a life. But then there's the back to the joys of wildlife photography. I took a picture of probably one of the best pictures I got from my summer trip this year was this coyote that I got some real good close photos of in Rocky Mountain National Park. We're up on the main road through the park, and it goes up over like 12,200 feet. Really, really high elevation.
Was this down in Colorado?
Yeah, Rocky Mountain National Park is east of Denver in northern Colorado. And so, we had stopped kind of at the high point in the road way up on this tundra up there and got out of the truck and we're milling about. And my wife spotted just down the hill from us, spotted a rock chuck or a marmot, whatever you want to call it. And it was, right down there, 12, 15 feet down the hill from us. And he's, doing what marmots do. He's standing there on his rock and yelling, hey, hey, he's just chirping, the way they do. And then I kind of went around the truck to grab the camera, and I was going to get some good pictures of this yellow belly marmot. And right about then, my wife was taking video with her phone of the marmot out the passenger window of the truck. And I came around the back of the truck with my big camera, and right then, this marmot ducked back into his den under that rock. And what he was yelling about was this coyote was coming. And all of a sudden, this coyote pops up over the rocks, and I'm looking right at him. Like, I'm standing like, I'm 15 feet above him and 15 feet away from him. So he's down there. He's not going to get to me. Coyotes don't want to get you anyway. But, so... yeah, I got some really good pictures of this coyote, and then he came up and he crossed the road right near our truck in front of it, and got some pictures. Then he went up on the rocks up above on the high side of the road, and I got some what you would call a picture with some context. There's not just a coyote in the picture. Right. There's a beautiful view now in the picture. So I got this coyote like perched up on this rock, with the sky behind him and some surrounding mountains and whatnot, I
think I saw that one.
Yeah, and that's the kind of picture you want. I don't just want a picture of the coyote. I got pictures before that one that were, he was staring me right in the eyes, right into my camera, which is something you don't get an animal to do much. Yeah. But then he makes his way over to a nice little perch up on the rocks, and you're just like, oh, snap, 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 snap. There it is. And when it happens, that's the one. Yeah. And up to then you're like, cool, I'm getting pictures of a coyote. This is awesome, Don't see them too very often, They're kind of elusive, and then bam, he poses for you, and you're like, brrrr.
Fucking Austin Powers and that shit.
Right. Okay, I just
baby. Yeah. Right. No.
Right. And and then there's landscape photography, which I do opportunistically. I don't really seek out landscape photos. You have
trees and nice waterfalls and shit.
Views, waterfalls, that kind of thing. But sometimes you stumble across. I'll take a picture of a waterfall just because we went and visited it. Okay, cool. But usually I'll just grab my phone out of my pocket, take a picture or something like that. Now, if I'm at a waterfall at sunset on an interesting weather day where the light is just like red or something, and something's going on, then boom, that's the picture you want. But people don't often stumble into those kind of situations. And when you see photographs like that on the internet or whatever, it's not just somebody went to a waterfall and took a picture of it. Yeah. Somebody went to that waterfall on purpose, maybe even from very far away, or they may live in the area, it doesn't matter. But somebody went to great lengths to get to that waterfall and to get that picture that you saw, the professional quality photo of this waterfall with like a fucking rainbow in it, and just cool shit going on. It's you can edit that kind of stuff in, but that's fake. Yeah, Photoshop. Yeah, but there's photoshopping, or not necessarily photo, but editing involved with all of these photographs. But to put fake things in the photograph is kind of a different story. But to get that picture, somebody may have spent a week at that spot taking pictures of that waterfall at different times of the day, until they get the one. For wildlife photography, you have to literally find a wild animal in its habitat and then hope it does something cool. You want to catch, the eyes are a big thing. It's so hard to catch an animal's eyes in a photograph.
Especially looking right at you.
Without trying to get their attention. That's kind of a big no-no to be like, hey.
Right. Yeah. Waving a stake.
Right. It's kind of a big no-no. You get caught doing something like that in a national park, you could get a pretty fat ticket, I'm sure. national parks are a great place to find animals just because they're protected, and they're maybe not so shy to show their face a little bit here and there.
Yeah, they're used to people because they're around
Right.
all the time.
They're used to the people, and they're not used to being hunted or anything like that. Last year, 2021, all of a sudden we had 13 moose on our property last year. Just from 0 the year before to we counted 13 moose on our 5 acres
Dang.
in a year.
I've only ever had one.
And then this year, 0 again. So you can't.
It's interesting. I wonder if, just migratory patterns or
Something. Mother's Day 2021, Christy woke up out of bed, walked into the bathroom, and there's a window above the tub, She walked into the bathroom 7 o'clock in the morning on Mother's Day and turned to her right. And, 4 feet away from her is the window. And another 1.5 feet outside the window is a full-on male moose, a big guy. He didn't have the big rack because it was Mother's Day. It's not rut. It's not the fall or winter. But, he had the beginnings of it, and it's a big moose. This thing was 1,000 pounds plus, easy. Staring right back at her from me to you, and she started screaming. I'm laying in bed. And what could possibly make my wife scream in the bathroom at 7 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday?
shower head on pulsate.
Right. So yeah, it was a big old bull moose standing right outside the window. But didn't even get any pictures of that. I got a phone pic or two of his ass when he was running away. Not worth showing anybody. Still a cool experience, know. But had I not been, fresh out of bed and everything and all that, I probably would have, grabbed my camera and went outside and got some good pictures of him. But that's just about 60% of the time they just get away,
Yeah. When I was, I think I was like 19 or something, I came home from work and like it was snowing out, and I go and I start pulling into the driveway. And I see this big lump laying in the front yard. Right. And I was like, what the fuck is this? And it starts moving. And I'm like, oh shit.
Right.
So pull into the driveway. And this thing is like, maybe 15, 20 feet away over in the yard. Yeah. Stands up. And I think it was a female, just big ass moose. And it's all legs. Yeah. This thing was probably like, the top of its head was probably at least 10 feet up. It was huge.
Oh yeah. They're so much bigger than people think they
are. Yeah. It's the first moose I've ever seen in real life. And I was like, I just astounded, like, how the fuck is it that tall? Right. And, so I'm younger and dumber. And I kind of knew, like, I probably shouldn't get out, but I did anyway. Yeah. So I get it because I wanted to run in the house and go grab my camera. Because at the time, all I had was like a flip phone. And, that wasn't going to do shit. So I get out, and luckily there were no calves or anything around. It just decided to lay down and take a nap in my yard for some reason. And so it got up, and I was trying to just be slow and not spook it. And it got up, went around the back side of the house. So I go in, get my camera. And by the time I came out the back door, it had walked through the backyard into like the alley and was over by the fence because we lived one house over from the freeway off ramp. Yeah. It walked right over there and with no effort just stepped right over the fence, the chain link fence between the alleyway and the off ramp. Right. Just walked over it like it wasn't even there. Yeah. Like it was
even break its stride.
No, like it was playing hopscotch. Yeah. It just right over it and then went up the side of the hill onto the freeway and just disappeared. Yeah. But that whole time I was like, holy, I just could not believe how tall it was. Yeah. Because the only thing I think of is...
Yeah, I've seen a few where it was... I was out by Gold Creek up on the other side of Pondray Lake.
Oh, yeah.
And where they have the dirt bikes and everything over.
Yeah, they have like a small resort thing or something up there.
Yeah, it's
pretty I've been wanting to take a trip up there.
It's pretty neat.
I finally made it to that place up Bunko where the power lines come down. Yeah. And like you pull in there and you can see
the whole valley.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I made it up there not last year but the year before.
Yeah, I've taken some pictures there.
Yeah, I saw one. I tried to get one, but it was with my phone and it was shitty.
Right. Yeah, so anyways, I'm out there by Gold Creek and driving along in my old Yukon and all of a sudden, you're just driving around I try to drive 15 20 miles an hour when I'm looking for animals. You don't want to spook them by driving too fast, and then you don't want to drive so slow that they hear you coming for an hour. so that's kind of one of the tricks. It's like 15, 20 miles an hour, truck in the highest gear to stay in, keep the engine down. They do not like my diesel truck, but this was in my Yukon. And so I come around a bend and I'm looking into these trees, and it's smaller fir trees and stuff, And then all of a sudden I'm looking off into these trees, and some of the trunks are moving their legs. They're moose legs, and they blend in so well to the woods that you could drive by 50 moose and never see one.
Yeah, especially because their legs are so skinny.
Right. So yeah,
so they blend in with like the younger skinny trees.
Right. I'm just looking into these trees, and they're probably 40, 50 foot tall trees, and the limbs start about chest high, but there's some of the tree trunks are walking. So the limbs and the foliage on the trees is hiding the moose's body from me, and all I can see is the legs. And like I said, they're moving. And by the time I got stopped, grabbed a camera, anything like that, even just roll the window down, not even get out of the truck to try to get a picture of this moose, every sign of it's completely gone. Just faded off into the woods. And I'm not gonna go chase an animal down for pictures like that.
Yeah.
You never know what you're walking into. And the other thing too is that I do is I stay heavily armed when I'm doing these things. I carry a 1911 double stacked in 10 millimeter. So it's 16 plus 1 rounds of 10 millimeter on my chest as woods carry, and I've never had to draw it. I did at one time. I did have to drop the camera. I have a strap that goes around my neck, like a big purse strap kind of thing.
Right.
And it's double secured to the camera, so even if it broke, there's another catch. You're standing there with some expensive camera gear, and you might have to drop it and draw your gun, So I have that. So, and this happened on my own property. I was kind of hiding behind a tree, taking a picture of a young yearling moose with mama another 50 yards off into the background. And this young, curious moose is looking right at me, and it was inching closer and closer. And it got to within 20 yards or so. And at that point, it was acting like it was not mad, but it wanted to come up and sniff me or something, And even though this moose is a year old, it's much taller than I am. And it doesn't live by the rules I live by.
Right.
So I'm kind of like half hiding behind this tree, and he moves 1 inch closer, and I drop the camera and put my hand on the gun, ready to pull it. And I backed out of there, and there was no, but see, that's kind of a bad on me. If you're changing the animal's behavior, you were too close.
Right.
If you're disturbing, if an animal is eating and it stops because you're there, you're disturbing him, and that's just as a naturalist point of view or whatever, that's kind of a no-no. You can even get in trouble for it if you were caught, disturbing, harassing the wildlife or something,
Yeah, it's just best to let them do their own thing and not fuck with them.
Right. So yeah, what a hard hobby. Yeah. I mean, shit. And if you come up with as a casual photographer, if you come up with pictures worth sharing and worth being proud of and all that stuff, I don't sell anything or nothing like that. I just do it for my own purposes. I like to show it to people. I like to have it hanging on my wall, and I like to be out there doing it. But to come up with a handful of pictures that are worth being proud of in a year's time is like, you're doing okay.
Yeah.
Now, if I was out doing it every day as a pro, I would know a lot more about what I'm doing. I'd have a lot more chances to take those perfect pictures and stuff, But
you set up one of those like camera blinds, the automatic.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Deal.
That's something I totally want to get into doing.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
But it's one thing to set up the blind and sit there and wait. I mean, but you're not baiting anything. You're not.
Yeah, you're just waiting for nature.
And as an amateur, you don't have time to go out and pre-scope it. You're like, oh, dude, there's a lot of moose in this area.
Yeah.
I'm going to go post up with a blind, or elk or something like that. I know places where I can go and take a picture of an elk that would just blow your mind. I mean, I have pictures of elk with 18, 19 points on their antlers, but those are protected elk. They're not getting shot at. You know what I mean?
But see, that's when you could combine hunting with photography.
Right, and then you can go hunt them.
Yeah, because
in protected places.
If you're sitting in a tree stand waiting for a shot anyway,
yeah,
fuck it, bring the camera.
Take a picture and then blast his ass.
Yeah. Or put the camera in the scope.
Right.
So right before you get your trophy shot, oh, that's beautiful. Boom.
Yeah. Click. Boom. Yeah. Yeah. You know. But yeah, what an incredible hobby that is. And so yeah, we took this trip this year from. We left Idaho we left home on the 5th of July, day after the 4th, and we went down to Stanley. And okay, quick rundown. We stayed in 15 campsites in 45 days.
Jesus.
So average of 3 days. Some were just overnight, some were week. But we went from home to Stanley, Idaho. We stayed for like a week, and then we went over to Grand Teton for about another 5 days, and then went down to they had a 5-day camping limit where we were at in Teton, so we kind of had to leave.
They only allow you to stay for 5 days.
Yeah, we were boondocking it in a 5-day spot.
Oh.
So, you know, no power, no water, no anything, and you can only stay for 5 days in this place. It happens to be right where that Gabby Petito girl got killed.
Oh, for real?
Where they found her body and all the van was and everything. We were right there in that spot. But you know, it was long after that was all happened and everything. But so we camped out there for 5 days, and we kind of had to leave Teton because we didn't have a reservation for a real campground. We did this whole thing without any reservations anywhere.
You just fucking took off.
We winged it.
Yeah.
Totally. So we had to leave Teton because of the 5-day limit thing, and they were actively enforcing it and everything. So we went to Palisades Reservoir, which is just 45 minutes or so south of like Jackson, Wyoming.
Yeah.
And we stayed through the weekend at this lake, and it was pretty cool. You know, my grandfather worked on that dam back in the 50s and stuff, you know. He lived in Idaho Falls at the time. So there was some family history there and kind of a place I wanted to check out. Stayed there for a weekend, you know, mid-July, a lot of swimming, went and bought some paddle boards and shit like that. And then we moved on to Bear Lake, which is right on the Utah-Idaho border, kind of not far from Wyoming, where the 3 states meet there. And this lake, big lake, sits halfway in Idaho and halfway in Utah, and they call it the Caribbean of the Rockies. The water is just...
Oh, like deep blue, like super clear.
Almost turquoise.
Yeah.
Super, super, super clear. Just almost turquoise. Beautiful. I got some really good pictures of some, what do you call them? Pelicans there. You know, I never knew there was pelicans like in the middle of the continent.
Yeah, neither did I.
You know, apparently they're all over the place.
You always think like near the ocean where there's fish, but I mean, fish in the lake.
So yeah, these pelicans were just chilling there, you know, and I knew they were there, and they don't go anywhere. They just hang out there, you know. It's at least that time of year. So I was able to get over there right where they were at the perfect time of day for pictures and get really good light, and got some really cool pelican pictures, you know. And that was just kind of easy money. You know, they're there. They're not going anywhere. It's not like, you know, driving 400 miles trying to find a moose or something.
Yeah. Which, easy shot at a bunch of lazy fucks.
Yeah. I mean, for instance, this trip we went on was 7,000 miles, 6,700 and some odd miles.
Jesus.
And we didn't see a moose.
We didn't see one moose in 7,000 miles?
We stayed in the Rocky Mountains for 7,000 miles.
Damn. You got robbed.
And we didn't see one moose. You know, and all these places we're at are supposed to be, oh, there you go over here, there's moose everywhere, blah, blah, blah. You know, no, nothing.
You got some cool mountain goat photos, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I got into those mountain goats a couple years ago on Beartooth Pass, which is a Wyoming-Montana border area, northeast of Yellowstone, let's say. Kind of almost out to Billings, Montana area. And the road there goes up to 11,000 feet. It's like 10,960 feet or something.
Yeah. They only stay up high, right?
No. I've also got pictures of them from right here at Ponderay, right across from Bayview. For
some reason, I thought they were just like a high elevation animal, where they only stay up there. So kind of like how huckleberries only grow above a certain altitude. I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't think they're a real high altitude animal. I think that most of their habitat just happens to occur at high altitude.
That makes sense.
But yeah, if you find the right habitat, even down. I took pictures of a mountain goat from my boat on Ponderay Lake.
Oh yeah, just up on like a rocky cliff thing.
There's a spot. There's an area of Ponderay Lake that's just loaded with them, and you can pretty much with binoculars you could spot them at any time up above on the cliffs. And one day I happened to run into one that was right down by the shore, like 20 feet above the water, and I thought it was odd for sure. Yeah. But the best mountain goat pictures I've ever got were up there on Beartooth Pass, and I found a herd of them, and you're at 11,000 feet and walking any kind of distance, up or downhill or anything, at 11,000 feet is taxing on a person that's not used to that. So I kind of hiked it down into this draw that's up on the top edge of this cliff, like a canyon, and the canyon is like 5,000 feet deep. And so up on top of the mountains up there, it's just a tundra. It's like flat grass, no trees. You're way above tree line. And then all of a sudden it drops into this canyon, and that's perfect habitat for mountain goats. They go up on top of the high altitude tundra and graze on that grass. And then if there's any threats, they retreat down the cliff. That's their only defense, is being on that cliff.
Right. Yeah. Because they can't fight.
Right. So I found this herd of mountain goats. There's at least a dozen of them, and they were all together in a herd. And so I found them, and I sat down like Indian style, crisscross applesauce, whatever you want to call it. and
that just, is racist.
Right. Or just sat there. So I just sat there, 50 or 100 feet from these mountain goats, and I've got my camera and my camera bag, with 3 or 4 different lenses in it and stuff, and I'm just sitting there for as long as they'll let me, taking pictures of them. And the backdrop, mid-July, there's just snow everywhere up there, The backdrop was just these like snow-capped mountains, and the grass had like these purple and yellow flowers in it, and just the colors of this green grass with purple and yellow flowers with a white mountain goat with this snow-covered backdrop was just perfect. It looked like when you go to Olin Mills and they pull the thing down, and it's like nature. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're really sitting on a weird thing. But so, I sat there as long as I could, and the mountain goats were coming to me. They were coming closer and closer to me, and I'm just sitting there, And there's some other people around farther away that are just kind of like, oh, look, mountain goats, but they're hundreds of yards away. So I'm just kind of out there with them all alone. I'm sitting, trying to make myself as small as I can so I'm not a threat.
Right.
And they're making their way toward me. And there's moms and babies. And I got these pictures of these like couple-month-old mountain goats like ramming each other in the head, doing all this stuff, and with their moms. And then there's some older ones that, they shed their fur, and there's like this old one. I got a picture of this old mountain goat where his fur is like a raggedy sheep. It's just all hanging off and kind of blowing in the wind,
patchy and shit.
Right. Yeah. And it's got bare spots and all this stuff. So yeah, I mean, stuff like that happens, and you're just like, holy shit. And then you can't. I remember that day. That's 500 miles from my house, and I remember that day. I got done with taking those pictures, and all I wanted to do was get off the mountain and drive the 500 miles home from like Red Lodge, Billings, Montana area, and get home and show my wife. She wasn't with me on that trip. I just wanted to show her, because that's her spirit animal is mountain goats. She's just like loves them, And I just wanted to get home and show her these pictures, and I did. And then the next weekend, we turned around and went back, both of us.
She went with you?
Yeah, I'm like, you got to see this. Let's go, So we went to Yellowstone, went up over Beartooth, and we actually found probably the same herd again, in pretty close to the same area. And I took a few more pictures, but it was like an area that would have been really hard to walk down into. At 11, like I said, 11,000 feet, dude. I mean, that's no joke. Climbing around and all that stuff. It really quickly lose your breath and start getting dizzy and all that kind of shit when you're not used to it.
Got to train, man.
Right. Well, that's like when they climb Everest, they go stay at like 17,000 feet for a week.
Yeah.
Before they even try to go up the mountain. But, you know, at 11,000 feet for a middle-aged fat guy, I mean, that starts to become an issue. So, but yeah, anyways.
Well, I'm glad I'm not quite middle-aged yet then.
So yeah, we hit Bear Lake and we stayed there for a while. Fell in love with that place. It's really a weird place. It's kind of forested on one side to some degree, and then the other side's just pure desert. So, and that's
weird.
Yeah. So there's like a mountain range on the west side of the lake, and a mountain range on the east side of the lake too. But the mountain range on the east side doesn't get any rain. You know, it's like there's sagebrush. That's it. But on the west side,
so it's just like a line in the sand. One side is this, and the other side is that.
Well, on the west side, there's trees somewhat. It's not like super foresty like it is here.
Yeah.
But so we sat there for a week and swimming in the lake, and it was just absolutely beautiful place. The town is kind of like a B grade tourist spot, so it's not like you're in Tahoe or Park City, Utah, or anything like that. You're in a place where people go on purpose, but not that much. It's not in the brochures.
Yeah.
You know,
it's interesting, but
yeah. So yeah, the little town and everything was cool. They're like famous for their ice cream or something, you know. And so yeah, we stayed there for a while. But yeah, we'd sit there and watch these rainstorms come from the west, you know, across Utah, like Salt Lake area, I guess. And they would hit these mountains and it'd be raining on the other side of the lake, but we would never get a drop. I mean, it comes straight towards us. And then halfway across the lake, it just stops. No more rain.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't get a drop.
That's crazy when that happens.
Yeah. And we sat there and watched it happen over and over again every day for a week.
Yeah.
You know?
When I was a kid, we were at Kmart there in Coeur d'Alene.
Yeah.
And came out from shopping, and we go back to the car, and literally on the front half of the car, it's pouring rain.
Right.
And the back half is completely dry.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I think I was like 6 or 7 at the time, so I'm just running back and forth.
Wow. That's a pretty
I'm
short
getting
distance.
wet. Oh, I'm dry.
Right.
And my mom was just like, what the hell is going on right now? Get in the car. You're getting wet. You're getting dirty.
And see, I'm talking like across this lake from us. It was like 10 miles away.
Yeah.
You know? So, I mean, you'd see them just fade out. You'd be like, oh, it's going to rain. Oh, no, it didn't rain. And we're literally like, we're swimming, we're, you know, with the dog, and we're paddleboarding on our paddleboards and this kind of thing. And in broad sunshine at 90, 95 degrees. And we're watching these rainstorms just come and die. Just because of the way the mountains are or something, you know. Yeah. And so anyways, we really enjoyed that place. That was kind of one of our favorites. At that point in the trip, I don't know, Stanley was pretty cool, though. That's where the Sawtooth Mountains are.
Stanley, Idaho.
Yeah. But
I've heard it's pretty cool. I want to say I've actually been through there on a bike, but I never stopped.
Right. So, yeah, Stanley was cool. But at this point, I think Bear Lake was probably our favorite spot so far at that point. And then we moved on from there. We went and stayed for a weekend in Park City, Utah, which is, you know, a big money place. We stayed in an RV park there. It was like way too much money. But we got our laundry done and we, you know, all that stuff. Did our grocery shopping, all that stuff, because we were in a sizable town, you know.
It's kind of like McCall.
Park City?
Yeah.
No. Park City's more like Jackson Hole or like Breckenridge, Colorado, or Tahoe.
Okay.
They had the Olympics there in like the early 2000s. So, I mean, you can go pay like $75 and go down the bobsled thing. You know what I mean?
Nice.
Yeah. Don't quote me on that price. I know it was pretty expensive. We didn't do it. But, you know, there's like really nice restaurants. We went to this like place, like a tapas place, you know?
Squid.
Not topless.
Yeah, tapas.
No, like small plates and stuff in Park City. And we had some of the most amazing food there. That was great. I had
hipster.
I had these coffee drinks that were like liquor cocktails, you know?
Like Bailey's or?
No, it was tequila.
Ew.
I had this coffee drink with tequila in it, and it was killer. Sounds terrible, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sounds fucking awful. I can't do tequila.
Dude, you would have loved it.
Yeah.
Anyways, I had like 2 of those and stumbled out of there, but I'm not a big drinker, you know. But so yeah, that was Park City. We didn't do a whole lot there other than that kind of stuff. And then we moved from Park City to Moab, Utah, which is, you know, Canyonlands, Arches National Park are both right there. And we stayed there for 5 or 6 days, I think, something like that. And we got an RV park there for the power because it's hot as shit there.
Oh yeah.
So, and we have a dog,
Yeah, you gotta have that AC sometimes.
Right. And those 2 particular national parks are not dog friendly. So we ended up having to leave Lola in the trailer with the air conditioner running and stuff.
What do you mean not dog friendly?
In Arches National Park, you can take your dog in there, but it can't leave the pavement.
Huh.
Wildlife and stuff. That kind of thing. And so yeah, Arches, Canyonlands.
Probably from dickheads not picking up their dog shit.
That kind of stuff probably too, yeah. And dogs getting in fights and things or whatever. Yeah. But most national parks are not real dog friendly to begin with.
It's weird because I would have thought that they would be.
Right. Yeah, they take the wildlife into account more than anything when they make those rules. But
yeah, I guess that makes sense.
So yeah, we went to Moab, went to Canyonlands, Arches, got some cool pics of some arches and stuff there. But that's like I was talking about the landscape photography, not really my thing. But yeah, here I found myself getting up at like 3:20 in the morning to be able to drive to this particular place before the sun rises and just hope that it's not cloudy or anything, And of course, it was Utah. But so yeah, there was not much wildlife to take pictures of in those kinds of places. So then yeah, you switch to the scenery photography, Got some cool stuff. It's not really my genre, but I had fun doing it, and I got some pictures I was pretty proud of.
So I'm more of a landscape guy, but that could just be because I can't find animals for shit.
Yeah, both of them are so hard. Finding a place to take a landscape photo is one thing, but like I was saying, finding the context to go with that. You know how many pictures there are of Half Dome?
Yeah, I've never really gotten anything like super great.
Right.
I mean, if a few here and there, but mostly at this point, I'm more just about fucking with the camera.
Yeah.
And different settings and focuses and stuff, and just kind of learning how it works.
See, for me, taking a picture of something like Half Dome. Okay, I've seen pictures of Half Dome my whole life. I've been there, Yosemite, a million times. So taking a picture of Half Dome to me is just not that interesting. If you catch it at sunset, it faces west, So if you catch it actually it kind of faces northwest, but if you catch it at sunset at the right time of year, you could get some glow on the mountain or whatever. But you know what? To me, like catching a picture of that mountain is only going to be cool if I get like a badass thunderstorm in it or something.
Yeah.
Some other context other than just the subject.
Or a coyote perched on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man. So it's the same thing with the animals. It's one thing to take a picture of the ass end of a bear, and it's another one where he's sitting there waving and winking at you, and you're like, I just got that picture. So yeah, it's like a challenge that'll never get fulfilled. I mean, think about like different hobbies and different goals. My audiophilia hobby, it's pretty much reached the limits of my budget. So yeah, that's my goal. It's good. It's as good as it's going to get for me. But taking these pictures, the goal is a moving goalpost. Okay, now I got that. Now I want to get this. And who knows? The picture that I'm looking for might not even get it next year. But I'll get 8 or 10 others that are fuck. I met that goal too. Now there's like so many.
Yeah, that's cool though. It's a good concept though, to have a hobby where the goal never changes, or no, the goal always changes.
Always changes. It's very dynamic.
Yeah. So that way it doesn't get stale, and you don't end up just stuck and like, oh, I'm at the end. What do I do now?
Yeah. What else is there after this?
Yeah. Right.
Well, with nature photography, there's always more.
Yeah.
Where are we at there?
Yeah, we're out of time actually, but
okay.
I didn't want to stop you in the middle of talking.
Right. Well, I don't like talking very much, so.
Oh, shut the fuck up.
Anyways.
Yeah, we'll like we were talking about earlier, we'll definitely have to get you and Dante in here.
Yeah.
And just hang out, fucking do some bullshit. And
I'm never going to turn down hanging out with that guy. Or you.
I love Dante. He's such a great guy.
Yeah, hope he doesn't hear this.
Oh, he probably will. Maybe. I don't know. Or somebody will, and they'll tell him.
Right.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun, dude. Thanks for coming and doing it. Appreciate
No problem. No problem at all.
Yeah. And this is one of the things that I like most about doing this is just like getting to know people,
Right.
but also getting to know more about my friends.
Yeah.
Because like you mentioned off mic, talking to people at a party and stuff.
Right.
And it's totally different because there's so many distractions and stuff, and
Right.
where people are drinking or whatever, and so you get to talking, but then you kind of lose lose focus.
Yeah, the conversation tends to end in about 5 minutes with, okay, that's cool, man, we'll see you later.
Yeah, right. And then you're going and looking for the next person to
Right.
And I think maybe that's because there's so many people, and you get trapped in like a social bubble or something, and you feel like you have to run around and like make time with everybody.
Right.
But this is just so great to sit and just get to know you.
Yeah.
And in some of these stories I've heard them before, but sitting here with the cans on and just being focused and listening to you talk, there's so many things that maybe I didn't hear before.
Right.
Yeah.
And you could sit here for 3 hours with somebody, and there's so much more. I mean, every person.
There's always more.
Is so much deeper than they even think they are. You know?
Well, fuck, dude. We've been here for 3 hours and it went by like it was nothing.
Right.
That's what happens with everybody.
Well, I appreciate you being interested.
Yeah.
And if anybody's listening that knows me, I appreciate you being interested too. And if you don't know me, then fuck off.
And don't forget Chad's Tractor Service. You can find him on Facebook. If you're local in the Coeur d'Alene area, I don't know how far out you go, but
I do pretty much everything from just north of Sandpoint to not much past Coeur d'Alene going to the south. Yeah, a little too hard to get across Coeur d'Alene.
Yeah,
it's for a day's work. You
just need to buy a tugboat and a barge.
Right, but I do make exceptions. It depends on the job and that kind of thing. But yeah, I have a pretty big work area. Pretty much, all of Idaho from like even Bonners Ferry. I've done some stuff in like the Naples area and all that stuff, all the way down to Worley. And all the way from Post Falls to Wallace, Smelterville.
Damn, dude. Yeah, you're going out everywhere.
Right. Yeah, you got to do what you got to do.
Right. All right, man. Well, thanks for being on. I'll see you again next time. And this is fun, man.
Thank you.
It's a lot of fun. All right, thanks everybody for listening. Coming on next time will be my friend James Tannery. So that should be a lot of fun too. Guy's got a lot of stories. He's a good guy. All right, thanks everybody. Bye.